What does it feel like when you see your mom's reaction to getting the beach house? And can you feel the car turning the corner? It's about immersing yourself in that feeling as if it was going on right now. And when you do that on a daily basis, it's not long before reality catches up.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in every single week to listen, learn, and grow. Now, you know that I like diving into the minds of unique individuals, people with incredible stories, fascinating backgrounds, people with insights that are gonna help us understand how we can level up our own mindset. Now, today's guest is gonna do just that. Today's guest is Russ, an American rapper, singer, songwriter, and producer. He's also the author of the USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller, It's All in Your Head. Russ has made 14 studio albums in his career, with several of his songs going platinum and gold. His latest album, Shake the Snow Globe, came out in January of last year and debuted at #4 on the Billboard album chart. Russ, welcome to On Purpose. Thanks for being here.
Crazy. It's just like crazy hearing those things out loud. I don't know, it just like trips me out sometimes.
Yeah, how does it make you feel?
Well, like every once in a while I unjade and I'm like, I go back to being 17 and I'm like, what's going on? Like, it's crazy. I'm super grateful.
How would have your 17-year-old self felt if they knew that this was going to be the life you lived?
They would have thought I was lame that I didn't do it earlier. They would have been like, took you to 28, what a loser. But I'm one of those people where, you know, when people ask like artists or anyone like, oh, did you see this coming? It's like, well, yeah, how else do you make it happen? I don't even know how you would make something extraordinary happen if you don't have like an extraordinary level of belief.
Yeah, I feel like there's a difference though between like seeing, believing, and knowing. Like some people just know.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we believe, but knowing is like even a deeper, like,
it is.
I know, right? Do you know what I mean?
I agree with that. That's interesting because I definitely, when I was coming up, it was that knowing feeling. There was no doubt. Like doubt did not exist in my brain. I knew that it was going to work and you couldn't tell me any different.
I feel like if we look at the world today, especially what's happened in the last 12 months, but even before that, you see that there are a lot of people who doubt themselves. Why do you think we do that to ourselves, and how did you not fall into that?
I don't know if it's necessarily age or if it's exposure to outside chatter. See, when I was 17, it was really easy to believe in myself because there was no one saying anything. Like there was no haters or I had nobody telling me you can't do it. Maybe some friends like joking like, oh yeah, you're going to be a rapper producer. But it's like, you know, I think a lot of it is you're born a certain way. I think the other thing is good parenting. My parents, especially my dad, always told me I could do anything and would like constantly tell me I was special and all those things. And, you know, I know there's people who think that you shouldn't tell your kids certain things like that. But for me, I really commend my dad for putting the battery in my back and making me think I can do anything I want because that's why I wrote a book. I don't read that much, but I was like, I could write a book. Why not? You know? So it's like, I don't know, man. Shout out to my dad. My dad is like the confidence guru. So
Shout out to your dad. Yeah, I love hearing about a positive, like, father role model. Mine was more interesting. My dad was more aloof and detached.
Interesting.
Which actually helped me because it helped me craft who I wanted to be because
Right.
I didn't have any pressure from him.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting how we all respond.
That's funny you say that because then it just made me think that the other thing is I was always super, super competitive and I looked up to my dad a lot. Like he was really good at basketball. He was super smart. He could just like do he's one of those people like he could just do anything and like you ask him any question, he knows the answer to it. And since I'm super competitive, I was like, I have to be better than you. I have to like beat you at basketball. Like he would always beat me at ping pong, pool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I just was always so competitive. So I think that really pushed me. He used to challenge me even with like school extra assignment projects where he always loves telling this story. I think it's slightly overrated, but I'll tell it and he'll be happy that I did. I think 7th grade, there was this class-wide or grade-wide sort of like extracurricular thing, like, oh, answer 200 of these math questions online and you'll get something. I don't know. And my dad just used to give me a hard time about not applying myself. So just to shut him up, I answered like all 1,000 and like won the whole thing. But like always uses that story as just sort of this thing that I do where a lot of times I'll just do something to prove y'all wrong and prove me right, you know?
Yeah.
Even if I don't really want to do it, but sometimes that's enough motivation. So I related to the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance thing where like he would use any little thing to be like, that was enough for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
y'all pick Karl Malone as the MVP. That was enough. That's how I be feeling. I only need a little bit. And sometimes I make them up in my head. I'm like, it's like a make-believe level of motivation, source of fuel. So
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that before, like this idea of having some level of delusion.
yes.
And one of my favorite people who had that, and I've studied his life through many books and teachings, is Steve Jobs. And so when you read the life of Steve Jobs had something they call reality distortion field, where he would distort the reality he experienced to be what he wanted it to be. Now that can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
But it
is
can
that
also
like
be,
a real thing? That's
it's
like a psychological real thing.
I believe so.
That's for sure what my entire life was from like 17
Now you got a
till
word
now.
for it. Yeah, now it sounds
Wow.
cool. So yeah, reality distortion field. So tell me about, why do you think delusion is useful, and where have you also seen it be dangerous? Because I think both is
Well, I
important
think
to
it
talk
kind of depends on what reality you're trying to create. But I do believe in, I used to walk around saying all my beats are $1 million a beat and I'm a billionaire and I just went platinum 8 times. These are all things I would say like that had not happened. And they were insane. Me and Bugis, my best friend who started Diamond, he put out a project back in 2011 and we called it 2020 and I produced the whole thing and we did the entire album from the perspective of 2020. So it was like we're on Rolls Royces and we just made millions of, like it was all just distorted reality, but it ended up becoming reality. So I do believe that if you want to change your reality, you have to already believe that it is your reality. But obviously if you like are trying to do something evil or ill intent, it's not gonna be great for everyone else. But
Yeah. Just before we started recording, we were talking about, being creative and being busy. And you said something really interesting. You were just like, I'm always creative. I've always got stuff going on here. And then you were like, there's some days where I don't, feeling lazy. Like, walk us through that, because
Yeah.
as someone who's super creative, who's loved for your creativity and how original your work is, and that's why I've always liked you. I've always felt your sound is very original and
Thank
unique,
you.
and it's hard to like be like, it's not like, oh, it sounds like that person or sounds like this. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is original. Like, that's where I've always resonated with your work. Tell us about how that is something you achieve, even though there are days where you kind of feel like, I just want to sleep all day or whatever. it may be.
Yeah. It's tough because and me and Boogie's talk about it all the time. The highs and lows of an artist is really dramatic, at least for me. Like I'll have days if I go into the studio and make something I love, I'm like on cloud nine, like everything is great in my life. But then I go to sleep and I wake up and that next day, none of that matters. Like I move on very quickly. And I'm just like, okay, now I need to make another one. But if I can't make another one, if that day I'm just not feeling it, or I go to the studio and I try and nothing works, I'm like, I should just give up. This is it. I'll never get a creative source again. You know what I mean? And it gets very like, you sink really low sometimes, especially if you go, for me, I make so much music that if I don't make a song for 4 days, I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what's happening? I'm depressed. So it's hard, but you got to just remember that you just have to have faith in sort of the creator in the infinite. And, I don't feel like I really make music. I feel like I deliver it, because I feel like when I have those moments, it's just something that's coming to me and I'm the vessel and now I'm just delivering it and I'm executing it and I'm almost discovering it in the studio. I don't know if I'm creating it, I'm discovering it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're not always going to be in that place where you're getting the message and you're getting the energy. So it just is what it is. It's just hard. It's the waiting time in between will make you feel like this is it. I'll never make another song again.
What makes you feel that? I love what you just said about delivering versus creating. I think that's phenomenal and it's explained really well. What makes you feel like you're in alignment where you can deliver versus forcing you to create? Like, what are the things that...
Lack of thought.
Right.
Yeah, lack of thought. those times where you get into that place where you're not thinking and you're just feeling, and like I said, just delivering. Like I'm not even thinking about should I say this? Like you get the inspiration and you just execute it. That's when you just enter that flow state and it's just special, you know? But it's tricky, it's hard, especially like I said, as I got not even necessarily older, just more visibility. There's outside chatter now in my head. You know, what people are gonna think. I know that I'm not just releasing it to my friends anymore. Like, you know, so it's become trickier to tune out everything. But yeah, man, just try to focus on the present moment. That's like
Yeah.
the one thing that I learned this past year was really like, how do I slow down time? And I was like, okay, well, the way I slow down time is to slow down my thoughts. And the way I slow down my thoughts is to be present. You know, you notice if you're just mindless and you're making a sandwich, but you're thinking about, oh my God, what I need to do tomorrow. And what all of a sudden 2 hours passes, right? But if you really think about like, you cutting the sandwich and what that's like, and you stepping on the grass and what your feet feel like, time moves really slow. You realize how slow time moves. So I just try to do that. I try to stay in the present, even in the studio. I don't try to uh, have my thoughts already be on when this comes out and this is going to be like this and how's it going to go. Then I'm just like, man, let me just like actually hear the music and feel the music and just operate from this place.
I love hearing you talk about this, man, because these are some of the principles that I'm constantly sharing in my work.
Yeah.
But hearing how it applies to a music artist in your career brings me so much joy.
Yeah.
Because it's practical, it's real. Like you've got time pressures, you've got pressures from labels, collaborations, whatever it may be. Like there are real life pressures. But when I hear you say that, and that's how you feel aligned, how did you get introduced to this work or this set of thoughts and beliefs and mindsets? Was it something that you had since you were a kid, or where did you start exploring with the idea of being present, experiencing, feeling, delivering?
The present moment is recent because you know what? I felt almost like I didn't need to be present, I guess, when I was coming up because there wasn't anything pulling me away from the present moment. I kind of only had the present moment, if that makes sense. It was just me and Bugis in the basement making songs, and that was it. There wasn't tours coming up and videos. There was none of that. So, but as this past year and past couple years have been happening, I got into the Power of Now book and just sort of just the whole ideology around just being present and started reading more into that whole theory. And I bought into it. A lot of this stuff, people don't realize that a lot of this stuff, like the teachings, the self-help stuff, you have to be open to receiving it, and if you're not open to receiving it and you're not willing to buy into it, then I hear you, but God bless, I can only tell people what works for me. But it worked for me, being present.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the power of now. And then when you talk about flow state, for anyone who's listening, if you've not read that book, it's a brilliant book as well.
Flow state. I haven't read that book.
Yeah, it's called Flow.
Wow.
And for anyone who doesn't know, flow, the way it's defined in that book is where your skills meet your challenge.
Exactly.
So
I saw like a YouTube video and that was like enough for me. I should read the book though.
Yeah, no. But you brought it up and it's a brilliant concept and you're
really
experiencing that because most people, it says, experience when their challenge is above their skills. And so they feel frustrated, disappointed.
Yeah, and then they give up.
Yeah, or their skills are above their challenge and then they feel bored because they actually have more skills than what they're trying to achieve.
And I think I fell into that a little bit, which is why I started working with outside producers because it was so easy for me to just like go downstairs and make like a Russ song, like I have a million beats, I can make it be boom, do this. And it's like, all right, cool, whatever. But I got into like a rut creatively because I was making songs, but I was like, it just wasn't even that fun, And I think it was because it wasn't that challenging anymore. So I started working with outside producers where it was like, okay, this is a bit of a challenge. And then further, I started trying to get on beats. Even if no one hears them, I started to get on production that I don't like in a sense. Almost to just be like, can I make a song out of this?
Wow.
Yeah, just like because I got the studio in my house and I don't need anyone to record me. So I can just be down there like experimenting. So there's been beats that producers send me and I'm like, I don't like this at all, but I wonder if I can make a song out of it. And it becomes this cool little like fun project. And a lot of times it's turned into songs that I'm like, this is crazy. Like
Wow.
I get so much more fulfillment out of it because I couldn't see it coming. A lot of my songs, I'm like, before, when I'm making the beat, I already know what the whole song's gonna sound like. And most of those usually end up being very successful. So I'm not gonna downplay them. But it does make the process not as on an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love hearing that because that's putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
And
right.
most of us avoid that.
Yeah.
Like most of us just want to hear a beat and feel something straight away.
Right. Well, see, because people are around other people. I would probably never do that if there was people in the studio with me. Like, actually, out of all the beats you played, give me the one I don't like, and I'm just gonna try to make something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I always tell people, whatever your craft is, make sure you have it in your house if you can, because those moments of solitude when you can kind of just be weird and experiment and dance around crazy and be nuts, that's where you're really gonna, I have a line where I say the public praises people for what they practice in private. So I just feel like that's when you gotta hone in on everything, is what you're doing in private. So I like, when I'm by myself in the studio, I be getting weird.
Can you tell us what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened?
I mean, it's not that weird, but it's just like, when I'm by myself, I'll put on a beat that I'm like, I don't even know what I'm about to do on this, and I'll just put the auto tune all the way up and go stand in the booth for 60 takes, just wailing and just making noises. And I'll be like, this is wild, or this is trash, or this was really cool. Like I sent my manager some song I did where I made a beat and I just put the auto tune on full blast and just freestyled the whole song. And I was like, I just had to get it out.
Yeah.
But it was cool. But like, I would never put it out. But it was awesome.
Dude, this is so inspiring. I love that approach. It's so refreshing hearing that.
Well, it's a refreshing process, because you get so rigid with like your process, and this is what I do, and we sit here and I make this kind of song. It's like every once in a while you have to shake the snow globe. That's where that whole concept came from. You have to just, it's like the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz. Like, turn the auto tune up and put on some crazy beat and let me just be a maniac for an hour.
It breaks the formula.
It does.
We work in this formulaic
it does.
Product line manufacturing, and you can't manufacture greatness.
And that's from school.
Yeah.
That's from school. School is such a factory setup.
How were you at school? What kind of?
I was incredible at school, to be honest. I'm not even gonna lie. I was just like, I'm really not. I was not one of those like, I struggled in school and it was difficult. I was really, really good at school because I wouldn't apply myself, but I was definitely the kid who like didn't study, never did homework, but I would get A's and B's on all the tests. And so everyone was just like, but I would be like, I was second. I always say this, and it's not even something I'm necessarily proud of, but it just gives context. But like a senior superlative, I was like second for most likely to make a teacher retire. Because I was just the kid in class, like constantly talking, distracting people, challenging the teacher, but I had an A in the class. So I was just super annoying, which I know is a surprise to so many people.
and so tell me, go back to the point you were making before I interjected around why you think that factory, yes.
Well, yeah, because, you have an expiration date as a kid in school. You got to be out by a certain time in high school, whatever age it is. Go to this department of the building when the bell rings. You know what I mean? It's just very like there's no creativity in there. That's why I'm really big on having arts in schools, and, just because otherwise you just, I don't know, just like creates these robots.
I love that you break the mold. How do you get to a point though where what I find fascinating, already your process is fascinating to me. What I find more interesting though is that your ability to trust yourself when you come up with something insane. Yeah. Because very few people ever allow themselves to do a wild card thing.
Right.
Now, when you do a wild card thing in the studio on your own and you discover something like a sound or a auto tune or whatever it is, and you discover a beat or a sound that you're like, oh, I like this. How do you then trust yourself to go with that when you play it to someone, they might be like, all right, you're crazy, Russ. Like, this is never going to work. How do you then approach that?
It's that level of, it's that stain of confidence that's just, you can't remove. I just still, like, Nas has this quote in an interview, I believe, where he said, if it doesn't scare you, you shouldn't put it out. So I've always kind of like kept that in the back of my head. I usually move with that. and I'm cool with that. And I like that with my fans. What I've created is this trust and this unpredictably unpredictable sort of relationship where they know they can expect me to be doing the unexpected, meaning they know it might be raps, they know it might be singing, but they don't know what it's going to sound like, but they know it's going to be me. And so I think I've done a very good job at painting my canvas and kind of giving people who I am. So it's allowed me a lot of creative freedom. I always tell up and coming artists, like, when you're coming up, you don't want to then, this is my opinion, when you're coming up and you're building your fan base, you're conditioning them to expect a certain thing from you, a certain sound or whatever, and you're creating this creative window. A lot of people, if you just come up only rapping, right, and you get your whole fan base off of only rapping, let's say, you haven't really fully tapped into you yet, and now you want to start singing. A lot of fans are going to be like, you switched up, what are you doing? Da-da-da. And you could lose a lot of people, and they might think that you're changing when really the whole time that's been you. You just didn't have enough time to discover it. So I was really proud of myself that I was able to kind of give people the whole scope of my creativity, so that when I do go left field, no one's gonna be like, what are you doing? Because it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's Russ just being Russ. Like, we know that sometimes he's giving us red, sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's orange, whatever. That's kind of why I did the artworks all like that too.
Yeah.
Just to let you know that all my music is all different colors. It's not just one.
Just spending this time with you already, and even when you came in and stuff, like, you're someone who's very comfortable in their own skin, but at the same time, you're not arrogant and egotistic.
Really?
And so
Wow.
I don't feel
Did
it.
everyone
I'm
hear
not
that?
feeling- yeah, I'm just.
That's
I'm
a
just,
first. No, I agree too. I think I bought into the own narrative.
Yeah, Breezy doesn't have an ego. I love it.
No, I definitely have an ego.
No, I mean in the sense of let's talk about ego for a bit, because and I mean it in a good way. I was saying it as a compliment that I feel that you have a very from what I'm hearing, or at least, and I'm only basing on this conversation I've had with you, but
Mhm.
it's like there's a stability between like knowing you want to learn more and be better,
Yeah.
but you are confident about who you are and
Sure.
where you are, which is a beautiful place to be, by the way. Like,
Thank you.
who doesn't want to be between those two things?
Yeah.
How have you tempered that ego that we all have
Mhm.
with the desire to learn and grow and realize there's more to go, but I'm really happy with what I've done? Because that's what
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of break that down for people, because I think a lot of people live in either extreme. Either they're celebrating their last win
Right.
for like 7 years,
Right.
or they're just like, oh, I'm the worst. I'm never going to win. I'm never going to
Right.
win. And they don't appreciate where they are.
Yeah, I think for me, to be honest, despite perception or whatever, I had to hype myself up. I had to be the biggest believer of myself. That's the only reason why any of this worked. And I think that, and because I'm very vocal about it, because I'm putting it out into the universe so that it comes back, it could come off like I think I have nothing left to learn and nobody can offer me anything. And I know it. It's like, no, y'all just don't know what self-belief sounds like, clearly. You might know what it looks like, and some people are just more quiet about their self-belief just to get people to like them. Otherwise, you get kind of my perception. But but no, I've always still been a massive fan of people and a massive just supporter of anything dope. Anyone that knows me from when I was nothing to now, from 2 years old to now, like, if you're dope at anything, I'm always the first person to like root for you, DM you, send you advice, like, bro, hit me anytime. And even just looking up to people, I'm a fan out. I'm like, yo, you're incredible. I would love to work with you. I'm that person too. So I don't know. It's the duality. You are able to have the utmost confidence in yourself while still also knowing that, okay, but this person is really dope too. And if we come together, it could be really fire. I'm just really confident in myself. And so I'm not desperate to reach after collabs and things like that. But it doesn't mean I don't think that I know everything. And, I'm always asking all my engineer friends, like, yo, what plugin is that? Like, this is crazy, yo, you're fired. And people you could ask even like Kid Super. When I first met him, the dude who made this sweater, he did my Gypsy video years ago, like 2014. And when I first met him, he thought I was hella weird or like socially awkward, because I kept giving him mad compliments. because I was so, it was like my first real kind of video-ish, even though it wasn't like some big production, but I was just so enamored by the process and I thought it was so dope that I'm just like, that's who I am. I'm a very complimentary person and like, I'm always going to give people their flowers. And he was just like, I'm like, nah, I genuinely feel like that. So I don't know. I've always been able to have that level of duality.
Yeah, I love the idea of that paradox. Like
Yeah.
it feels like it's not allowed. Like it sounds like it should not be possible to think both those things.
Yeah.
But actually that's where all the magic happens.
I agree.
Right? Like that we always think, no, you have to choose, you have to decide, or you're either or. But actually hearing you say that, yeah, actually I think both those things.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love how that doesn't stop you from appreciating others.
Yeah.
Who was it that appreciated your sound earlier on that you think made a difference to you and made, guided you? Or was it just you for yourself?
It was me and probably Boogus.
Mm.
Like, for the longest time, it was just Boogus rapping and me producing. And that was my closest example of like someone who I thought had really good taste and I trusted their opinion artistically. So when Boogus gave me the green light to be like, yo, yeah, you should rap, it was just kind of like, okay, well, game over for everyone else. Like if Boogus thinks it's tight, so, and that's how it still is. Like, um, it's important to have, you only need one, but it's important to have at least one person who believes in you, sometimes almost more than you.
Mm.
And there is no jealousy or weird, you can't win because then I won't win. Like it's a very weird thing. So I always, commend Bugis for being like the best friend you could have in something that I'm doing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Let's talk about that a bit. I
Yeah.
like what you brought up there about men specifically, like, and you took me straight back to like my teenage years where
Yeah.
I'd be best friend with a dude and he'd be like my brother, but then we'd go out and he'd be like, all right, let's see who can get more girls today. Right? Like that would be his
Right.
mentality. Or like, oh, let's see who'll be better at the sport today. And it was every time I've realized that everyone in my life or male relationships, if every time a friend of mine has tried to turn a friendship into a competition,
Yeah.
they haven't lasted in my life.
Yeah.
Like they're no longer in my life because I just wanted to be friends.
Well, now don't get me wrong.
yeah.
Me and Bugis, dumb competitive.
Okay, so explain.
We played basketball together. Like
Right.
anything me and Bugis will turn into a competition for sure. But when it comes to a dream you're following after, like it's never like, yo, how many streams did your song do, bro? You know what I'm saying? It's never been that.
How do you build that balance? What is it about him and what is it about you that allows you to build that kind of a friendship? Because I think that's rare.
Yeah, I do too.
Especially in today's social media world, stream
Yeah.
world. I mean, followers, views,
Yeah.
comments, engagement, all this stuff that we all talk about.
I think we're both trying to do the same thing, and we were both real friends before all this. And we both understood, we read Napoleon Hill, so we understand the power of a mastermind. And we just, as big of egos as me and him have, we never let it get in the way of like supporting one another and any of that. So I don't know. I just think it comes down to the person. Like, how real are you? Some people are just fake. It is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that idea of being able to have at least even one person,
Just
like
one,
you said,
that's all
just
you
one.
need.
You don't
Yeah.
need, yeah, because sometimes we want 10 or 20 like
Right.
that, and you're right. For most of us,
No.
we're lucky to have one.
Yeah.
and that's a good enough start. You mentioned Napoleon Hill and Mastermind. What age were you when you read that book?
17. Bugis gave me the book. So Bugis was putting me on to a lot of that stuff. He put me on to Napoleon Hill. He put me on to The Alchemist. So that's the thing. We weren't just like I would say the like typical 17, 18-year-olds, hanging out. We graduated high school 17 and we just were locked in the studio from then until now, So it was a lot of self-discovery, but out the gate, once we left high school, we were reading those books. So it was just kind of like, we were ready to go mentally. Like we read those books and we're both the kind of people that we buy into something quick and then we latch onto it and then that's that. If that's what we believe, you can't tell us anything different. Like if I went vegan for a year because I watched one documentary and like that was that. Like once something clicks in my brain, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like right now, I haven't had bread or grains in 2 weeks because I just like woke up and it clicked. Like my brother, nutritionist, told me, and I latched onto him. Boom, that's it. I've like me and him have always been very good at just once we decide something, that's what it is. He lost a bunch of weight, 30, 40 pounds because he just decided I'm done, So once me and him decided this is what we were doing with our lives, there was no, yeah, but maybe we're not doing it with our lives, or this was it. And we were both fully committed. And every day and every second of our lives was committed to this.
That requires such a level of discipline to like
Yeah.
make a choice and to stick with it. And I find like that's something a lot of us struggle with today. Like
I'm
habits,
terrible at
yeah.
discipline and I've always been terrible at work ethic.
Well, it
But,
sounds
but
like
then I realized that it was the work and not my work ethic. It was the work. I didn't have good work ethic in school because I didn't like the work. It's not hard to get up and do something you love every day. And I think people get judged off their work ethic incorrectly because they get judged their work ethic is judged off of how well and how consistent they're doing work they don't enjoy.
Mhm.
How can you judge somebody off of that?
Yeah.
Judge me off of, what I love. That's how I can really tell if you're about it or not. Like you say you love this. You say you love basketball and I know you do. But you're not putting in the work. That's how I know you're not really about it. Now I can judge you accurately.
Mm.
But if you're a basketball player and you love basketball, but um somebody's judging you off of how well you do paintings and every day you're in the art studio, that's not even fair.
I love that. What do you think is the most difficult thing you've been through personally? Like what's been a moment, a time in your life where you felt you were really battling with something to overcome it?
2018 was pretty rough for me, just because when I was 17 and I had this vision of what my life was going to be and what it was going to be like to be on and successful and a musician and money and fame and whatever. I had this very innocent, like, just the world is made out of like marshmallows and cotton candy perspective on it. And when I got on, it started off like that. But then it very quickly turned and I got this very nasty side of like fame where there's a lot of negativity and hate and narratives and things that are out of your control and things that are so frustrating and trying to fight everything because I'm a fighter, and I'm competitive and I don't like just rolling over. So this isn't a broken version of success. This just is success. This comes with it too. I didn't plan for that. I thought like once you get on, everything is perfect and everything is fine because that's what you think when you're 17. So that was tough. Just like the dose of reality of like, oh, okay, this is not what I thought it was gonna be. But that has to be okay because this is what it is.
That's such a brilliant thought that you just said, that it wasn't a broken version of success. That just was success.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because you're so right that when we're teens, we think we're going to get to a place where it doesn't matter. And even now, I think a lot of people look at people like yourself and other people that we both may know
Yeah.
in our lives, and people just be like, oh yeah, but that person's life, everything probably just works out just the
Right.
way they
Well,
want it.
like that's what's so frustrating, right? Is that people on the outside looking in, their response to everything any famous person is going through is, you have millions of dollars. Why do you care about anything? It's like, what do y'all think money is? According to most people's theory, once you have fame and money, you have no emotions. That's it. You're no longer a human, is what you're trying to tell me. I shouldn't feel sadness. I shouldn't feel anything because I have money and fame. It's like, okay, let's run with that. Fine. I'll buy into that for the sake of the conversation. However, if you're telling me now that because of money, I'm above certain human emotions, then you're telling me I'm above you. So now when I act like I'm above you, don't now also come back and say, why are you acting like you're better than me? Well, you just told me I'm better than you because I don't even have the same emotions you have. So which one is it? Am I better than you or do I experience the same emotions as you? It can't be both.
Mm.
That's why I encourage people on the outside looking in to just shut up. It's like
I'll take a more compassionate, empathetic line, but
Go
yes,
ahead.
in the same idea of, yes, like the idea of, and I love the way you explained that. I think it's a great way of cutting through the noise.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, because also when we think someone is safe
Yeah.
from human emotion because of money and fame, then we think when we get money and fame, we will also be free of human emotion.
And
So
then you're in for a rude awakening.
right, exactly. We're projecting it onto you, but then you're setting the same standard for yourself.
Yeah.
Of I hope, and literally, I've heard. I think every person who's rich and famous will say the same thing.
Yeah.
Of just like, hey, this is what it really ended up as. Go on, sorry.
And no, and it doesn't matter what any rich and famous person says. Everyone on the outside looking in won't believe it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, nah, that won't be me though.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I hear you. I was there too. But you know, I think the beauty of understanding is understanding when you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that. I think there's understanding in understanding that you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people need to accept that you don't get it.
Yeah.
And that is being compassionate.
Yeah.
Like I can hear you, but it doesn't mean that I feel you. And it doesn't mean that I get it. You know, that's it. That's it.
Well said, man. That is so true. I think that's such a great definition of compassion that you just gave, because I think even when, like, it's even when someone calls you up and said, hey, my parent I had a friend tell me this, my parent just got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't empathize. I've never been in that position.
Yeah.
So I can't be like, oh, I feel you. I get it.
Right.
I have to understand that I don't
That you don't understand.
That I don't understand.
But that is understanding.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes that's all people are looking for in those moments, is just like, I just want you to be here and present. I don't expect you to get it. You know, it's the people who try to act like they get it that actually makes you feel even more alone. It's like, wow, you're really showing me that you have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I mean, when you're talking about this time in your life, the 2018, when you're experiencing success, not broken success, in your words, what are you learning at that time? Like, we kind of know what you're learning, but what's your process of
getting out of it?
Yeah, of figuring it out even before you try and get out of it.
Letting go of my hold onto what it needs to be. That was the ego. The ego was like, it's supposed to be like this though, and it's supposed to be what it is, you know? And once I let go of all of that, and then that's why I came out with Shake the Snow Globe, because I realized I just needed to reset and unjade. I was like, man, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Like it's what it's supposed to be. And as long as I'm still operating from a place of love and a place of wanting to share, I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
It'll be what it needs to be, you know?
And that time is also what led to the book in 2019. It's all in your head.
Which it was all in my head. A lot of times in my life, I kind of sometimes accidentally speak things into existence. So I had the title of It's All in Your Head for years. Like I always had this idea of writing that. From a positive standpoint, obviously, like, you know, manifesting and self-belief and all those things. But it's funny that I had this title, It's All in Your Head, right? You're your own worst enemy or your own biggest fan. You pick whatever it is. And then while I have this title, 2018 happens and I'm losing to myself mentally. You know, I had to snap out of it, you know? So it was just one of those things where I needed to like listen to my own advice and be like, bro, it's all in your head now, you know, like, but now on the negative side.
Yeah.
But it's a choice at this point. Do you want to fight everything and fight the whole world, or do you want to let it go?
Yeah. And was writing the book quite therapeutic in that? Because I almost feel like when you're writing a book called It's All in Your Head, it's far more simpler to go inward because you're kind of dealing with topics and themes that work for you. What was the biggest thing that you put in the book that you felt was what helped you overcome and work?
Man, that whole book, and especially the process of it, it was like an interview. So I had this woman who would come and she had the tape recorder, and I had all the chapters mapped out, like what I was, you know, because it was all song titles. So I knew what the chapters were going to be. I knew what I was going to talk about. I just needed somebody to help me organize all my thoughts. So she would come with the tape recorder and just we would go chapter by chapter, and she would say, okay, we'll talk about manifesting, what it means to you. And I would just talk. And so it was really like a week and a half of therapy sessions. And then we organized all of it together. And I, you know, did my stuff and whatever. And it was like, man, this was it. That's why I love that book, because it's really me. Like that was me talking to a therapist for a week and a half in a book.
I love, And how amazing is that people have that accessible to them.
Right.
Because if everyone could have a diary of them being in therapy,
Right.
I think that'd be phenomenal, like
Yeah.
to be able to look back and work through it. You've mentioned manifestation a few times, and I think you've taught us some really, in my opinion, again, very personal and refreshing ways.
Yeah.
We hear about the word a lot,
Hmm.
and randomly, you're obviously someone who believes it, lives it, knows it, is experiencing it. What is the process that you have practiced for you that has worked
Yeah.
for you that others could understand? Because I think there's a lot of like misconceptions around it. But for someone who it's working for and someone who believes in it,
Yeah.
how would you describe it for
It's
yourself?
that knowing thing you were talking about. It's not necessarily just seeing it. Oh, I can see myself with money, and then that's it. Now you're gonna get money. It's more so knowing it and also feeling it, and not just like, excuse me, not just, oh, like I said, you can see the beach house you bought your mom. It's it's what does it feel like though? What does it feel like when you see your mom's reaction to getting the beach house? And can you feel that? Can you feel the car turning the corner to the beach house? It's about immersing yourself in that feeling as if it was going on right now. And when you do that on a daily basis, it's not long before reality catches up with your thoughts, you know? And like I said, it just has to be something you believe and buy into, this whole theory, you know? If you believe that we are just the universe experiencing itself and, you know, we're all in tune and connected to the infinite and all these things, then you're going to be fine as far as as far as this, you know, method goes. But if you don't, then it's not for you, you know? And
And
God bless.
was that the best thing you manifested?
The beach
Yeah,
house. It was one of them for sure,
yeah.
but just like this whole career, man, just this whole life was a complete product of law of attraction, but also being proactive. I wasn't just sitting
That's what I was
there.
gonna ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't just like click your heels and go back to Kansas. You know what I mean? Like it's
Tell us about the work. Tell us about the
yeah,
product, the actual like. So we get it, the immersion, the feeling. Which,
yeah,
and I know you're doing the other part too. Tell us about the strategy, the networking,
yeah,
the actual skill,
yeah.
because you have to have a skill, right?
Well, skill can get developed, you know. Skill is developed. I was not the most skilled when I started at all. All of it sucked. So, you know, you develop skill through repetition and through practice and putting in the work. But yeah, I don't think people understand that you actually need to put in the work and be persistent. You just also have to couple it with a very positive mindset. But, you know, Will Smith talks about the concept of, and I've like mentioned this a lot, like laying a brick a day until you have a wall.
Mm.
You know, I think his dad took them, you know
Yeah,
the story I'm talking about, and
yeah,
they
yeah.
like did the brick a day. Like, how are we gonna build a wall? And you go out there and you lay a brick a day. So I really resonate with that whole story and concept. And I think it's really true. I think a lot of people are just focused on the whole bigger picture and like, how am I gonna be this famous musician? Like, I haven't even made a song yet. It's like you're not supposed to be thinking about like all that to the point where it's daunting and crippling. You're just supposed to, you know what? I know I'm gonna get there. I can feel what it's like, but in the meantime, I'm gonna lay a brick a day. I'm gonna make a song a day, or make a beat a day, or find samples every day, or study every day. Like as long as you're doing something towards the bigger picture, a small thing every day, you're good.
That's
Yeah,
real. That's
yeah,
real, and that's how it has to be built.
yeah.
Everyone always think it's like that. The wallet analogy that you're talking about, you kind of just turn up. I was thinking about that one day. I was looking out into the city of LA, and I was just thinking like someone had to think about this. And I
Right.
was in Dubai recently. I was thinking the same. It's like it's just a desert.
It's a bunch of ideas.
Yeah, and someone had to think about it first. Like they would have looked out onto like desert
Yeah.
and had to think about it, but we don't think about that because we walk into a city.
You walk into every, like that's what I find fascinating is that every day you're walking around in somebody's idea. That's how you know thoughts are powerful. Like we're sitting in so like this chair was somebody's idea to make it look like this and the cushions to be this soft and these shoes. Like you're just constantly surrounded by other people's ideas. And I think the really cool thing about free will is contributing your ideas back into the infrastructure of what's already going on.
That's so powerful, man.
Yeah.
That what you just said now is so powerful. How do we how do we know if our idea is good, or is that even the right question?
I don't think that's the right question. I think is it serviceable, you know? Does it help?
Mm,
You know, is it just for you or are you serving a bigger purpose? That's why I think music is really great because we're, you know, it's a service for the world we're providing. You know, big or small, however you want to quantify it is on you, but it's definitely a service that we're providing. And I realized, after I got money and fame and whatever, um, I was like, man, the whole point of this, like I literally said this to myself the other day in the shower. This is where all my ideas happen. And I don't
Why
feel
is it in
bad.
the
I don't feel
shower?
bad about that because Pharrell said the same thing.
Yeah.
But I literally just blurted out. I was like, I need more money so I can help more people. It was just like a thing that blurted out. And I was like, yeah, that's the whole point of all this. I had this like epiphany where I was like, I'm 28. I made it. The only thing left to do is obviously, yeah, keep making it, but it's to help other people make it, And I just think that our goal is to just give. And I think there's a very uh, misled sort of idea that we're supposed to be getters.
Mm.
And I think Bugas actually mentioned this concept to me about being a go-giver instead of a go-getter. I think a lot of times, especially with music, success, fame, we're just thinking about what can we get, and what can I get from the world when I put this song out and so on and so forth. But it's more so about what can I give to the world.
Tell me about a message or a piece of fan mail or an experience you've had with a fan or a listener that made you realize how impactful music is on someone. I'm sure you've had some phenomenal, and
It's so many, man, to be honest. And I'm so fortunate that it's so many. But every day people are sending me messages of, you saved my life, and you meet people and they're crying their eyes out because it's like you helped them so much. And that's, that's when you realize it's just way bigger than you. It's just way bigger than you. And like I said, I think I'm just excited to keep giving to the world. And I know that could sound cliche and like, you don't believe that I'm actually that generous, but it's really like, anyone around me knows, like, I'm always trying to help, I'm always trying to like give people money or whatever, just because it's like, that's, my mom told me a long time ago, when I first started getting money, she said, money is meant to change people's realities. And so if you have the ability to do it, you should. So I get a kick out of just like, I'll see a fan on Twitter and they're like raising money for like their dance program. And I'm just like, here, a kid will send me a DM like, my mom's funeral. And I'm just like, why not? And I don't need to post about it. It's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give it back. And I think I'm also a very big believer in not blocking the natural flow of the universe. And I think money is a force of energy. And when you get it and you're just focused on keeping it, you're going to lose it.
Mhm.
So I always get money and give it right back. And I think that's why it keeps coming in. 'Cause I
Yeah.
just give it away.
Yeah. And it's given in your own way, right? Like, I think what I love about what you're saying, and you're talking about the cliche of giving, to me, it's you figured out how you like giving.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what matters for all of us, because
Yeah.
some people are going to do charity work. Some
Sure.
people are going to build schools. Some people are going to support the people around them. Some people are going to help
Yeah.
a person on Twitter or whatever who can't even pay for their
Right.
mother's funeral or whatever it is. Like, the point is of supporting in the way you can
Yeah.
and in the way you feel called to,
Yeah.
because that's all you have.
And it tripped me out when, like I said, when Boogies brought this concept to me, and
Go giver.
yeah, go giver. And I was like, man, I never fully understood the complete reason why I got so much out of life already. And he was like, it's because you gave so much.
Mm.
And I never thought about it like that. But when you think about, I have more songs out than some of the veterans in the game, most of them, I got 500 songs. I just like the game I give to try, like I give a lot and I don't think about it while I'm doing it. I'm like, I'm about to give this so I can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just like giving it because I naturally want to do that. But it makes a lot of sense that, givers get more than the getters.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
even when you're giving and it's not even being loved or received that way, but you continue to give.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's easy to give when everyone's kind of like, oh, we love you,
Receiving
and they
it,
give you the
yeah.
validation. But sometimes you're just giving because
Well, see, but if you're only giving it to get something back, then you're not giving me anything, you're loaning it. That's what I always tell people. I like women, I don't care who it is, don't give me love if you're only giving it to get something back. Then it's conditional. and it's not giving, you're loaning me love. You're only loaning me love for an extended period of time until I give it back. I don't do that. I give love and give game and give money and whatever it is. I don't expect anything back. I give it because that feels like the right thing to do and it aligns with my spirit.
How do you feel, or how do you respond when you realize someone just loaned it to you when you thought that they were giving it
I
to you?
expect most people to act like that.
Right.
Because most people are like that. Most people are out for self. They're very self-serving. And so I know that most people are operating from a place of, I'm not doing any favors and I'm not doing anything for free. And so I'm not really surprised. I'm not that naive. I think you can be naive if you want, to the point of like, I really thought you were just helping me out. It's like, okay. I don't assume anyone's just helping me out. I like, you get in trouble and you get your feelings hurt when you assume people are as kind as you. Or people, not to be like, I'm the most kind person ever, but you can get your feelings hurt if you assume everyone is like you. That's when you get disappointed and you suffer. And the whole thing with suffering, it comes from attachment. So if you get attached to the idea that, oh, well, they're going to operate how I'm operating, you're going to suffer.
Yeah.
So I try not to get attached to anything really.
Yeah.
That's the only time people suffer, is when there's attachment involved.
Yeah.
You're not going to freak out if a water bottle right here gets like burned or your table gets burned. You're not that attached to the table. So that's when you got to like choose in life what's worth getting attached to, which I really think it's people and animals, people and pets. It's about it.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty replaceable
Yeah.
off top of my head.
Yeah. I'm going to add people, pets, and purpose. We'll add a third one.
Sure.
Yeah.
People, pets, and purpose. I like that.
Yeah.
But even the purpose, it's hard. You get so attached to that, you can suffer a lot along the way if things don't go the way you want them. That's what happened to me in 2018. I was suffering because it wasn't going the way I was attached to. And once I let go of that attachment to how I thought it was supposed to go, I was fine.
Yeah.
Sure, there's dips and here and there, but for the most part, I'm good.
Yeah. I always say to people, you get to where you want in life, just not in the way you imagined it.
Yeah. Or when.
Yeah. Or when you imagined it. And that's the challenge, right? It's like you have reality, and then you have your projector screen up here.
Yeah.
You're trying to make this projector screen happen, but this is reality right now.
Yeah.
And that's what you're actually going through.
Just have faith that whatever you want, you're gonna get it, and whatever life you want, you're gonna achieve it. But it doesn't matter when. That should be irrelevant. You can't put a deadline on your own success. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It ruins people. Those people that are like, by 30, if I don't have, and it's like, then what's gonna happen at 30 if you don't? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happens?
Totally.
It's
and you
crazy.
don't know when.
Yeah, you don't.
Like, you're 28 now. Like my life took off externally. Internally, my journey started at 16.
Sure.
But externally, my journey started at 28.
Wow.
And so,
See?
I'm 33 now. And it's just interesting. It's like, you just don't know what's going to happen. And you just...
But you trusted the what? And you believed in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Trust the what.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful, man. Dude, this has been one of the most refreshing conversations I've had in a long time.
Nice.
Like, I love how you've brought everything you've learned along the way and made it so practical.
Yeah.
In your
I've had to
life.
make sense of my whole everything. Like,
yeah, but
I think
you've really made sense of it. Like, when I'm listening to you, I'm like, wow, like this is, you can tell that Russ is reflected and deeply internalized these concepts, because it's really easy to say the stuff, but the practical aspects of it, of how you live it, is what's blown me away.
Yeah,
like,
I appreciate it. Well, I always tell people, being a musician, it's such a self-discovery thing. Like, you learn just so much about yourself and the universe when you're an artist, and it's just, it's such about like diving deep into the depths of yourself and discovering you. And it's when you're the type of artist I feel like I am, which is, I'm trying to talk about the truth. I'm trying to help people. I had to those self-help books and just kind of moving through this journey, I had to find the way to apply all of this stuff to my life in a practical, productive way.
You can tell, man. You
Yeah.
can tell. It's
Thank
real.
you.
But
Thank
yeah,
you.
we end every interview with the final 5. So this is a rapid fire, fast 5. So you're
sick.
going to answer every question in 1 word or 1 sentence maximum.
Fire.
So that's for every one of them. Easy for you. You're a lyricist, and,
Yeah.
and this will be easy for you. All right. The first question is, what's the best advice you've ever received?
What if it can turn out better than you can imagine?
Second question, what's the worst advice you've ever received?
Be realistic.
Nice. That's good. That's a good one. All right. Third question, what's one thing you're trying to learn or grow and develop right now?
More of a affinity and appreciation for the present moment.
I like that. All right. Question number 4. What's one thing that you think other people value, but you don't value?
I don't know. What do people value that I think is dumb? Crocs.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. I agree.
Yeah, good.
All right. 5th and final question. If you could create one law in the world that everyone had to follow, what would it be?
The golden rule, bro, that they teach you in 5th grade. Like, do unto others as they would. You know what I mean? If everyone had to only treat people the way that they would be treated, I think obviously the world would be in a much better spot. You'd be much more conscious of like, all right, maybe I shouldn't do this. But the thing that's funny about that, I always laugh when people think they get away with something. You didn't. There's always, to me, I believe the universe is seeing everything. Jay Electronica has this line where the universe is listening, be careful what you say in it. You know, it's like, you might think you got over on me, you didn't. Somebody saw.
Yeah.
You know, good luck, enjoy that.
And the worst thing is you saw somewhere deep inside of yourself.
Yeah,
And
you have
that's
to
the
live.
worst one, I
Yeah.
feel. Like, that's the one that eats you up the most. Everyone, Russ, this has been honestly one of my favorite conversations
Thank
we've
you,
had.
man. That
Like,
was really
there
awesome.
are so many things you shared that I hope everyone who's listening and watching is going to go back and listen to watch and write notes. I didn't tell you at the start, but now I'm like, you should have taken notes, because
Wow.
this was one of those episodes where there were just so many practical examples of not listening to people's opinions, finding solitude for your creativity, allowing yourself to be wild and insane on your
Yeah.
own so you can discover new things about yourself. The ability to balance confidence with humility at the same time. I mean, you've just been dropping
Thank
bars
you.
the
No,
whole time.
I really
and-
like the way you framed all the questions though, because it had me thinking in ways I wasn't. Like, I never really thought about the duality of the ego while also being a fan and just being. I never told anyone about being crazy in the studio when you're by yourself, like the auto-tune thing. And
I
you know,
love that. That was
yeah.
one of my favorite things. But no,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. And I hope everyone who's listening and watching, go and grab a copy of Russ's book. It's all in your head. It will be
Yes.
a great read for you if you love this conversation. And of
Yeah.
course, all the music, all the albums.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on Purpose, man. And we hope we can have you back for part 2.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we should do this regularly, because I feel
Yeah.
like it would be nice to see your evolution
Yeah.
and your growth as time goes on.
Yeah.
So I loved it, man. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Everyone who's listening and watching, thank you for watching On Purpose. And I want you to tag me and Russ on Instagram with the things that stood out to you, on Twitter as well. What is it that you heard? What is it that he said that you just can't stop thinking about and you want to share with your friends? Make sure you tag both of us. I love noticing what really resonates with you guys. Thank you again for listening and watching. We'll see you next time. If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.
I share a picture of us. I don't care how many likes it gets. If people like it, that's fantastic. I hope Instagram gets rid of the likes. You know, like, we just do it because we love it. We want it. It comes from our soul, it comes from our hearts and our desire to share what comes through us, not because it fills a void.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose. I'm so grateful and appreciative of the fact that you take out time out of your days every single week to learn, to listen, to grow, and to focus on self-work and love in your life. And you know that I'm committed to finding and bringing you the guests that I believe are living a life on purpose, that are doing things with a heart of service and wanting to have a meaningful impact in the world. And today's guest, I can truly say, is someone who's dedicated to that vision and that mission. He's a director actor, producer, and entrepreneur, and is focused on creating a service-based life through entertainment and media. He stars in the award-winning Jane the Virgin, which many of you have probably seen or heard of and been fans and followers of. And also he's the founder of Wayfarer Entertainment. He's an incredible human being who I connected with probably about a couple of years ago, but we've been trying to make this happen. So for me, this is a huge moment. I'm so grateful to have with me Justin Bordoni. Justin, thank you for being here.
I appreciate you so much, man.
No, I mean it.
I'm really happy to be here. Of all the things that that come my way, this was one that I was like, this has to happen, because I appreciate the on purpose aspect of everything that you do. And it's like, this is it. This is why we do it, right? This is why we do everything. So thank you, man.
No, thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you, definitely. And I want to dive into so many areas of your life today. And I want you to start with what you just said now. Like, when did you get to that point where you realized everything was about service and on purpose? And how did you get there?
I don't think I'm there. I think that's one of the things we'll probably uncover is I don't think we ever really get there. I think that there have been moments in my life that were both caused by me, making poor decisions that led me to a path of having no choice but to realize that this life is not about me. And then there were things that happened that were just completely out of my control. But I don't know if we ever get to a place where we realize that life's just about service, because that's just not the way that the ego works and the way that our brains are built to work. So I feel like every morning I wake up, some days I get it, and then there's some days that I don't. And the days that I don't, it's about then making sure I wake up the next morning and seeing if I can get it. And I think that's just the journey that is life, right? It's just, I don't think we ever arrive. Maybe you have arrived. If anybody, maybe you have. But I definitely have not. So yeah, man, I think that it was a combination of a lot of things.
So I'm with you. I've not arrived either. I completely agree with that. I think we have showers every day because we get dirty. We have to brush our teeth every day because they get dirty. We have to eat every day because we get hungry. And so we have to feed our souls and minds and consciousness every day too, in the same way.
In my faith, there's a quote that says, at the end of each day, we have to take ourselves into account. And we have to look at all the things that we did that would be pleasing to God, and then ask for strength to do better. And then look at the things that we did that day that were about us and maybe would be displeasing, and ask for the strength to do better, right? So we want to repeat the things that we did well, but we want to do better and, improve on the previous day. And that's it. Little by little, day by day. It's what we're told. Yeah. So,
And both of those things that you said there are so important, because you have to know what you're doing well too, right? You got to repeat those again and make them happen again in your life.
And that can't happen if we don't reflect. And if you don't actually think about, I love the idea of taking things into account. I'm a Baha'i, by the way. And
yes.
And so this idea of taking ourselves into account. The actual quote is that take ourselves into account as one day we'll be summoned to a reckoning, right? Or thou art summoned to a reckoning. This idea of we're going to have to look at our lives and all the things that we've done and all the decisions that we've made, whether they be for us or for somebody else, the pain that we've caused. And one day we'll have a reckoning with all of those things. So by taking ourselves into account every day, right, little by little, we're kind of being proactive in that process and not waiting until the day we're standing under, before our Creator and having to do the same thing. So yeah, man. So then you mix in our business and this industry and all the interesting things that come with it. And you're it's a battle every single day, which is why I say I'm still trying to figure it out and work on it just like everybody else.
Yeah. But that's what fascinates me so much. And what I love about what you do is that you're able to be in an industry that's seen a certain way, that may function a certain way, but you're able to bring that soul to it. And you're working hard to bring that service element to it. And that's when I first reached out to you. And I kind of want to go back there because I think you've done so many interesting things in your career and your journey. And I'm sure many people already know about some of them, but even if they don't, I want to highlight them and unpack those stories with you. But when I reached out to you, I saw you had given this TED talk about being man enough. And I looked and I was just like, wow, here's a guy's from the perspective you were talking about it, you've been an actor asked to play very alpha male roles. And then you're looking and reflecting and taking into account.
Yeah.
And you're noticing and you're observing that oh, wait a minute, this isn't me. I've almost been pretending to play roles and be someone that I'm not. How did you start unpacking that and that journey to get to that talk?
First of all, that talk was, I think I still have PTSD from that talk, in the sense that it was one of the scariest things I've ever done, especially at TED Women. Like being in a room with 1,500 of some of the world's most powerful women, and then being a man and giving a talk that's like feminist adjacent, right? And then also the TED stage, talk about self-doubt. Like, what do I have to offer the TED community, right? I'm an expert in nothing except myself. And even that I'm trying to, figure out. So that was a hell of an experience. And my son was born 8 days or 9 days before that. And we were shooting Jane, and it was just this crazy time. But I think for me, it was about, look, you get to Hollywood, and Hollywood decides what they want you to be, right? Suddenly I'm playing these characters and I'm auditioning for these characters that couldn't be farther from the way that I viewed myself. And also, these are characters, I'm playing the types of people that also made my life very difficult when I was younger and caused me a lot of pain. So I realized early on, I remember calling my first manager, sent me an audition, and like the title was like super hot. And I remember I called him and I was like, I think you sent this to the wrong person. I don't think because it just wasn't how I saw myself. And I was a bit of an ugly duckling, and girls never really liked me, and all the things grew at the wrong times, and eyebrows weren't cool back then, and definitely not the big nose. And I was super skinny and very insecure, and had acne, and you name it, like braces in high school. And I was bullied a lot, and I was picked on a lot, and I would compensate with overconfidence when I was younger. But all those boys from the time I was in elementary school, to even, I still struggle with it today, I always felt like I wasn't included, like I wasn't a part of the group, like I wasn't a man, like I wasn't man enough, right? And then suddenly I found myself being looked at from a superficial lens as one of those guys. So I was inducted into the club because at some point in my early 20s, I finally like grew into myself maybe, but it was never comfortable. So I remember early on in my acting career playing these roles, but having no idea like how I would talk or say things or walk, or because even my walk, was made fun of at one point by kids when I was in 7th grade. And these memories are burned into my soul. I'm playing like a really cool frat guy at 20 years old. I had no idea. I wasn't invited to frat parties when I had no, like, how did I do that? How do I do that? And I found more and more every time I got a job, it was like living in conflict. And then I realized that I was actually living in conflict outside of the work, because I would become a different man based on who I was with. So I would change my personality, the way that I carried myself, the way that I walked, based on the company that I was in. I would become a chameleon to be accepted, to be liked. And all of those. And then I noticed my behavior with women as I was dating and in relationships. And I just started to think about all this stuff, which unfortunately we don't often think about because the world is built to distract us. So in thinking about it, I realized that I was having a innate issue with my masculinity. It was much deeper than that, but that was at least a part of the issue. And then I saw a lot of other men having a very similar issue. And then the more I learned about feminism and women's rights, I realized that was also a big contributor, if not one of the main contributors to the oppression in that certain way. And so I just started to like dig into it and learn. And I found, I don't know how, but Ted eventually asked me to come speak, and I wanted to use my platform to talk about it because I just felt like, man, if we could get more men to open up and think about this stuff and go inside instead of projecting outside, and I don't know, maybe we'd have a different looking world, and that's just the surface layer. Underneath all of it, I believe is there's spiritual issues that need to fundamentally change. But you can't change those things like with the snap of your fingers. So I chose masculinity as kind of like the surface level thing for me to discuss and talk about. And also because it was parallel to my journey playing a character that was also kind of trapped and struggling with his masculinity.
Yeah, absolutely. And what have been some of those challenges? It's so funny when I'm listening to you, there are so many things in common. that
Oh,
I've
I'm
spoken about
sure.
before, that I'm listening.
sure.
I'm just like, wow, like I was super bullied when I was young because I was very overweight. And so I
Were
was,
you really?
yeah, I was very overweight, and my wife had the same thing. So me and my wife, even though we didn't know each other at that time, but we both grew up on that side of the journey and experience of how we were bullied growing up.
That's so interesting because my wife and I were bullied for being skinny.
Oh, wow.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
The policing is very interesting, and we oftentimes forget that. And it's and my God bless my wife, but we were watching a Meghan Trainor song, all about that bass. Because my daughter is obsessed with that music video.
Yeah.
She's 4 years old, and everyone's dancing, and we're watching this video, and she and Maya's liking it, and and some of the words are kind of not attacking, but
Provocative.
for skinny girls, kind of making skinny girls possibly feel bad for being skinny, right? And we don't realize there's a whole nother group of women and men that are bullied for looking a certain way. And my wife has a lot of trauma from growing up, and she couldn't put weight on if she tried. And so she's telling my daughter things like, it's okay to be who you are, and you know what, if you're skinny when you grow up, that's also beautiful. But also explaining that their bodies are beautiful and all of our bodies. And it's so funny that like we don't think about the policing on both sides and where that comes from. So, but the result is the same. The result is like a lot of insecurity in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, throughout your life.
Yeah. And I can relate to the chameleon aspect too that you're mentioning. I can totally relate to that.
But we don't often think about it, right? You're like,
I've said it so, like I've repeated it because I came to understand that fairly early when I chose to go and become a monk, which was the most random decision of everyone I grew up with.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
It was, no, we can talk about it another time, not today, but this is about you. But the reason I'm bringing it up is just, I think as we're reflecting, I'm hoping everyone who's listening or watching right now, I hope you're getting an opportunity to reflect. Maybe you have already, maybe you haven't. But if you're listening or watching right now, the reason why I'm sharing when I'm listening to you is I've also played that when I was on Red Table Talk recently, and I know you were too. And
aren't they wonderful?
They're wonderful. They're amazing. Yeah, the whole family is just beautiful and incredible. And I was talking about this. I was talking about how like I was switching my personalities to appeal to women and appeal to the opposite sex. So I would switch who I was,
of course,
so that a certain type of person would like me. What have you found from giving that TED Talk, doing that research, doing that work up till that point in your life? What did you find out about identity? And on that deeper spiritual level, I'd love to hear that from you. I love how you said that you were not using, but engaging a viewpoint around something more surface level to talk about something deeper.
Well, I think all of our issues are inherently spiritual, but you can't snap your fingers and fix a spiritual problem unless people are willing to go there. And as you know, having been a monk and me, every day waking up and struggling, the inherent, the connection that an individual has with their creator, God, the universe. I mean, even God is a buzzword now for people. Like God is triggering to people, which is a bizarre thing. Like people are so anti-religion now that, and because they've had such terrible experiences in whether it be their churches or, with various groups, that people are very hesitant to even talk about God. So now we're using words like the universe, right? Who created the universe? I don't know. Something did. So I use the word God. But it's so hard to tackle a spiritual issue when we're not realizing we're actually spiritual beings having a physical experience. So that's why choosing, that's why look, so it's social justice. It's all of these things. They're all interconnected. If you strip it all down, right? Whatever the problem that's plaguing the world, it all comes down to spirituality and the way we view each other as other, or the way that our ego takes over, or our drive for power or money or success, and and completely forgetting that we are here really to serve each other and to be of service to our creator, the universe, God, whoever you want to call it. So some of the things I've learned that I don't know anything. After the TED Talk, I found it really interesting because we were talking about this outside. I never planned on being a public spokesperson for anything. Like, I'm not a thought leader, right? I'm not someone that's going to like change my Instagram bio and call myself a thought leader and like make that my world. I actually inherently kind of am a little allergic to that phrase, right? I'm not a leader in anything. I was a guy with an idea that started talking about the things I cared about. Because of the way social media works, people then attach certain labels to me. Because also of the way the industry works, then it becomes a little Pavlovian on my part or your part. You start to do more of that thing. But inherently, I kept it as pure as I could. And then suddenly you're asked to give more thoughts and more opinions. And then you're on the TED stage and you don't know what the hell you're doing there. That's my journey.
I love it.
But afterwards, what ended up happening was I didn't expect there to be so much negativity. And I didn't realize how polarizing the masculinity issue was.
Interesting.
And how interconnected it was with the political climate and the culture divide that's happening in our country and around the world, right? As an example, feminism is now a weaponized word. And if you're considered a feminist, then people assume they know your political ideology. The same thing with masculinity, right? You're a liberal snowflake. You're this, you're this. And I found myself getting very attacked. And I am not good with that because of how I was treated as a young boy. There's a lot of open wounds there that I've been working on healing for a long, long time. So as we were talking about out there, I could have 1 million people tell me amazing things, but I could have one guy tell me something with just like keyboard courage with some anonymous name that I happened to read on accident and my day is ruined. And it doesn't matter how enlightened or prayerful I am, there's a part that hasn't healed from being that kid that, of course, I will eventually hopefully get to a better place, but none of us have been trained to really know what to do with social media this way. So I found myself having a lot of interesting reactions to the talk, being loved and supported by women, getting tons of texts from women when it came out. Very famous women that I hadn't seen in 10 years, 20 years, a few men.
I was one of
them. Yeah, right? You were one of them. Being promoted on all these female-facing magazines and websites and things. And then the male reaction was really negative. And I was confused because it ended up perpetuating the same issue, which was this feeling like I am not good enough for my own gender, which happened as a boy. And now here I am talking to men as a man. Because at the end of the day, I'm an athlete. I'm a dude. I work out. I love some of the aspects of masculinity. I'm a sports fan. I'm like, all of it. But I also am a sensitive and I'm an emotional person. And all I'm saying is that you can be both. And maybe we can use all of those aspects of masculinity that make us strong men to explore the hidden inner parts of ourselves to become more full humans. And the response was terrible on the
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was really
I really
interesting.
didn't realize that.
And I got really sad and I didn't understand. And I realized that without knowing it, I had used certain words that sensational media has weaponized for a political agenda, like toxic, right? I'm not saying toxic masculinity doesn't exist, but that word now, if I say it, a large part of the population will not listen to what I have to say, even though I'm not using it in a politicized word. I'm saying the aspects of masculinity that encourage policing and bullying, that encourage us to change our personalities, maybe to treat women poorly, those things are toxic. And by toxic, I mean they're bad for you in the same way that like a harmful chemical causes cancer, right? That's all it is. But that word can be weaponized. And then we're living in a very sensitive time where things are very polarizing and we are in the middle of this culture war. And I found myself in the middle of that. And I realized that, man, I should have done a little more research because the men that I actually want to reach, the men that I want to talk to the most are the men who are rejecting the message. And then I was in an echo chamber. I was in a silo. I was talking to the people that already believed in it. So that was something that I learned.
That's beautiful.
Which is why
man.
now with my work around masculinity and Man Enough, I'm changing a little bit of the way that I talk about it because women don't need to hear what I have to say. The women are doing the work themselves. My work is with men as a man, healing also some of the things that have happened to me and that I've been working through and hoping that that by displaying vulnerability and by talking about things that are hard to talk about that you and I have been through, that it gives other men permission to do the same. Because at the end of the day, men are killing themselves at a higher rate than women. Men are dying of heart disease and cancer more than women. We isolate ourselves. We clearly cause a lot more wars and are doing a lot more damage. And I just feel like there's a lot of opportunity for healing. And that's at its core what it's about. It's about healing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You've said that so well. And when I saw it and when I'm reflecting on it now, hearing from you, for me, it was just really clear that you were speaking about something that was around personal growth, personal healing, personal transformation from the perspective of, hey, have you had a look at yourself in a while? Are there parts of you that you would like to change? Are there parts of you that you haven't explored? Are there parts of you that you've forgotten even exist there? You know, are you really being the person you want to be? Are you?
We haven't been trained to do that.
Absolutely. No, we haven't at all.
Nobody's taught us that.
No, absolutely.
Our fathers didn't teach us to like look at ourselves and observe our behavior. We didn't learn that stuff. The movies are not teaching us that.
No.
The magazines are not teaching us that. What are they teaching us? How to get the girl, how to make your body look good so you can get the girl. And we don't even think about that language. What does get the girl mean? Now we're already thinking about women as a possession, getting a thing, an object. So without even realizing it, we're like brainwashed to think a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, versus attracting a partner or a mate. It's not in our programming. We've been socialized, and women have been socialized to respond as well. I mean, there's two sides to this equation, which is why we've both, and I've noticed this, had to change our behavior around various groups, especially women, to become the man we think they want us to be, instead of being just who we are, who we were born to be and who we were born with, full of shit and baggage as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I took from it was just that encouragement to people to unpack your own bags. You know, like we've all got to do that healing ourselves. No one's going to do it for you. Like no one's going to walk into your life and fix you. And it's great. Anyway, but I just wanted to say that I personally thought what you did was awesome. I personally think hearing from you today as well, and I'm hoping everyone who's listening and watching is taking that in from a point of self-reflection. Like that's what I'm learning from this. It's like, let's look at ourselves in the mirror and not look at our bodies in the mirror, just that. Let's look at that inside in the mirror and go, okay, what do I like? What do I want to work on? Where do I want to grow?
Am I happy with this?
Yes,
Am I pleased with who I am?
Absolutely.
We all have that feeling. You know, this feeling when you're in like a social setting and you say something or you interact with somebody and then you leave that person and you're like, oh my God, I was such an idiot.
Yeah.
Or why did I say that thing? All of us have it. People are like, they're in the room. Like, everyone's like, yeah.
Right now is going, yeah.
But nobody talks about it, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, we all have it because all of us are trying to like figure out who we are. And if you have that moment and you're like, wait, why did I say that thing? That wasn't me, right? What was I trying to prove? Why did I change that little like self-awareness can take you on a deep, deep journey into like, I don't want to say enlightenment, but into that self-reflection and awareness. And you can't start to change something unless you realize that it exists in the first place and you come to terms with it. So
absolutely.
Anyways, yeah.
And it's both those things. It's looking back and going like, what? How did I say that to that person? And then looking at what we say to ourselves too.
Yeah.
It's like reflecting at the voice in our heads and going like, wait a minute, did I say that to myself? Like, is that how I'm talking to myself now?
Yeah. And then if you say, oh, I'm such an idiot.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? Like then now clearly that's how we're treating ourselves.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny. My wife oftentimes says to me, stop treating my husband like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like this beautiful.
That's awesome. I love that.
Like she's like, hey, be nice to my husband. Right?
That's
because she sees me do that to myself like that, because I can take the self-reflection and then I can go too far. And then she's like, hey, right? And then now it's fun because I get back to her all the time.
Yeah.
Because we're all doing that to ourselves,
absolutely.
right? That's what marriage is at its core. And we can talk about marriage.
Yeah. Go for it.
Marriage is two people coming together and putting all their shit on the front lawn and having that be the fertilizer for their new home.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, that's what it is.
Yeah, 100%. No, I love that. And what's interesting is, you know, you've gone from obviously using your platform to spread a message, but just recently, just now you were saying that actually you've been taking social media downtime too. You've been taking breaks from tech.
Yeah, I just don't think any of us realize also the damage we're doing to ourselves. You know, it was funny. I had a question for you.
Go on.
You're a king at social media. I marvel at what you've been able to do and what you've been able to build, especially because you're doing it and it's all the same. It's all the same with the same intention. I can tell, I know I can feel intention. Only God knows intention, but I have this thing where I'm allergic to like self-help gurus and like, it's like a, no, but like, there's a thing because we're all flawed, right? And it's so easy to put ourselves on a pedestal. And it's so easy to then suddenly, with the millions of people or the 20 or 30 or 40 people in a church or a congregation, to start to think that that's about us and not about what's coming through us. Mm-hmm. So and this is just me putting this on you, but I feel your purity. And I sincerely thank you for that. However, I don't know how you do it because you're creating so much content on such a massive scale every single day and building businesses also for helping people, that I look at you and I'm like, how are you able to like separate you as your person from like this world that hinges on commenting and liking and putting out content? And I don't know how you do it. So first of all, I would love for you, because you knew at some point it was going to be flipped.
No, I didn't. I wasn't expecting that.
I learn. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm not a guru or a self-help person. I'm here to get help and to learn. And all I do is pass that on. But I don't know how you do it because our brains are not wired for this thing. Like we haven't been wired for this. But yet you're doing it in such a beautiful and pure way, which is why, as I see your numbers rise and this is the number one, podcast on iTunes, I have so much joy for you because I'm like, oh my God, finally someone that I actually believe really cares is doing it. But how do you separate and like not go to bed at night thinking about the post you're going to have to do tomorrow? Like, and the interaction and the engagement that you have to have, like to get people to swipe up. How do you do that?
So I think the first thing I'm going to say is I'm grateful, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that coming from you. Like it just, it was very heart, it was very heart touching. Like I'm feeling the bromance and a genuine, like I'm just very grateful to hear that from you. Like it means a lot because it's not been easy and it's a daily practice. And the first thing I'm going to say is I have an awesome team. So that is a huge part of it. Yeah. And as things grew, I really understood that I couldn't do it on my own. And that if I tried to do it on my own, then that would get very difficult. So I think one of the biggest things was recognizing I had to find people with good energy, find people who didn't just want to do this because they got paid to do it, but that they were also doing it because this was deeply connected to their mission in life. And it was helping them fulfill their purpose. And that's what I've always said to everyone on my team. It's like, I want you to be doing a role that feels aligned with your purpose as much as it's aligned with mine, because it's not good enough for you to be here because you get paid to be here. Like that's not. And so I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team that is doing that so that I'm not having to think about everything all of the time. So I think that's one big thing. But for me, I've had that daily practice for a long time. And I've talked about it a bit before, but I call it seeds and weeds. And that's my check-in system. And that's the check-in system from my Vedic tradition, Hindu tradition, of checking the seeds and weeds in my life. So the way I take account is I ask myself at the end of every day, at the end of every week, or at the beginning of a new venture or a new business or a new project, and I ask myself, am I doing this as a seed or a weed? The seed is a positive intention, which is a pure intention, and a weed is a negative intention, an intention that I know could start off amazing, but will end badly.
So a negative intent. So as an example,
yes.
Give me an example of
that. So like greed, ego. If I'm doing something,
I'm doing this for, there's a deal coming and I'm going to do this just, you know what? It's going to make me a few grand. I'm going to do it.
Correct. That's so I would put that there. Yeah. And that's different for different people. Like, yes, I have to take point and say, I'm in a privileged position where now I can decide to do that. Right. Sure. And there was a time when I stuck to that even when I couldn't, but I appreciate that not everyone can.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's
so
tough.
I'm just putting it out there as a disclaimer for other people. I'm not pushing that on anyone. But for me, I know for a fact that if I'm doing something we were talking about it earlier with guests. Like I want to have guests here that I can have these conversations with. Like there may be a guest that may get me the good numbers and like be really good for my brand. But it's like, if I've got nothing to talk to them about, or if we're going to sit here and just talk about their new CD, right? I mean, not that everyone does CDs anymore, but you talk about, then I'm just like, sorry, just showing my age. But the point being that like, if that's all you're going to do, like that's not exciting to me. So me and my team, when we're talking about guests that we want to have, we sit there and talk about like, what would be the talking points? And like, Jess will do the research and we'll be like, okay, well, let's talk about the meaningful stuff. Like we're trying to look at like, how do we, and so I think for me, a big thing is I don't want to do things out of ego, greed, just for money, right? My own pride, or just for perception. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at how can I do things out of kindness, love, compassion, service, right? Impact. And I can still be as strategic about it. And that's the missing link, I feel. And this is all inspired by one statement by Martin Luther King. He said that people who love peace need to learn to organize themselves as well as those who love war. Mm-hmm. And that's the missing link, that we can all be as spiritual and as deep and as pure as we like or trying to be. But if we're not strategic and if we're not, and you know this because I see you do it, if we're not focused and we're not organized, then we're doing a disservice to this beautiful message. And I think what you pointed out so beautifully is I actually feel being a messenger of a message that is through me is actually liberating. It takes some of the pressure off.
Sure does.
Because now I'm like, now it's not about me being perfect. And now it's not about me having to live up to a certain standard. And now it's not about me having to be perfect all the time and say the perfect things all the time and look perfect all the time and all of that stuff. And I think that's where it takes the pressure off.
Do you still have the human moments where you struggle with like, oh, that didn't do as well as I wanted it to, or, oh, that person didn't respond, or just finding yourself maybe in a moment where you want to be just purely connecting with another human, thinking about, the strategy of something tomorrow, or, do you still have those moments?
Yeah. So I would say that I definitely have the moment of assessing. I love assessing performance. Yeah. Because I also think but it's the lens through which you're assessing it. So let me explain what I mean. So I'm assessing, like I will look at a post and be like, oh, people didn't like that video as much. Interesting. But I'm not going, oh, people didn't like that video as much. Oh my God, I'm so sad.
They don't like me.
I'm depressed about it. My self-worth is now falling down. Like, oh my God, maybe like my views are going to tank now and people are going to like, that's not the line of thought. My line of thought is, okay, what can I learn? Why didn't they like that? Like, did we spread the wrong message? Was it not meaningful enough? Like, did we use the wrong thumbnail? Like, I'm trying to learn from it. Mm-hmm. And ultimately it's coming from
as a strategy, as a business, as organizing.
Correct.
But what's so interesting is that I look and I see Instagram and it's a strange intersection of people's personal lives and business. Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult to separate the two, right? Because we're almost inextricably linked as personalities and as human beings. Yes. And as business and monetization platforms. And that's what's never been discussed or talked about. Yeah. Right? You're right. So as an example, you might share a post of you and your wife that has nothing to do with your business. Yes. But then 90% of your other content is going to be about your business. Granted, your business specifically is to make a difference in the world. And yours and to help people. And mine. But I know that's been one of, and not to bring it back to me, but bringing it back to me. Please bring it back to me. No, that's been one of the struggles that I've had is I had to take a step back and I had to say like, wait, what am I saying and what am I doing? Because it's such a powerful tool. But as we know, tools can be used for good and tools can be used to destroy. And I'm seeing so many negative things happening in people's lives as individuals. I'm seeing the dating world. I have so much compassion and sadness for so many of the people that I'm seeing trying to navigate themselves in this like social media, instant gratification dating world. We're seeing, epidemic levels of depression amongst young people, right? Because of the likes and because of, we were lucky. We didn't have social media when we were, I'm older than you, 35, but we didn't have it. Like imagine that pressure, So I looked at it and I just said like, okay, why am I taking this picture? Yes. It's that simple. It is that simple. Why am I taking this picture? And what I've been doing, and I took it a little too far because I really haven't been posting nearly as much as I used to, is I kind of took account as to why I was doing something, which really comes down to purity of intention, right? 100%. Why am I posting this? Do I know it's going to get likes? Or am I posting this because I like it?
Yes.
And if you can just strip it down to that and start to battle the Pavlovian instincts that come up when you're thinking about it, then I think that you're on the right track. And so that's kind of the world I'm in now, which is sharing far less personal moments, although I share personal moments, but I'm sharing them because I like them. And I'm acknowledging and I'm aware of the thing in me that for some reason doesn't feel accepted when the strategy as the business person isn't getting the response that I feel like it could or should. Because I'm not like you in the sense where I don't have a platform where I'm quite literally trying to affect and change people's lives all day long. I'm creating a different kind of content, but my world has come together with my personal life and my business. And it's a very tricky thing. And you're seeing a lot of influencers and celebrities dealing with this kind of this strange intersection of like business and personal life. The promotion of brands. It's a very lucrative thing for people in our position, like with this privilege, but at the same time, at what cost and what are we saying and how are we doing it and what are we showing? And it's really trying to figure out, and I'm on the journey of trying to figure out how I can do it in a pure way.
Yes.
Because it's a necessary thing.
Yes.
But I need it to feel pure because my filter and my accounting system is straight up like, if this doesn't feel right or pure, I can't do it.
Totally.
I physically can't do it no matter how much you're going to pay me.
Yes. I'm with you.
And that's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my issue with social media right now. And I'm also, I don't even think you asked me this, but I've also been struggling and thinking a lot about just overall intention. And I'm seeing this trend in especially young people that want to change the world. And I don't know if anybody really knows why they want to change the world. And that's troubling to me. In an age where everybody's trying to be more authentic, nobody is. And that's scary for me, thinking about my daughter's generation, which is why we at my company at Wayfair and personally, we don't say authentic anymore. We say sincere. And I believe that you got to ask 2 to 3 whys always.
Yes.
Sure. Why do you want to change the world? Because. Well, why do you want to do that? Because. The third why is going to be because I want people to remember that I did. Or, and you look at this hustle mentality, this world that we're living in on, where we're showing our lives to everybody. And then I just look at them and saying like, well, what's driving you to do that? Why are you sharing that? Why are you broadcasting live on Instagram? Who are you talking to? And what are you trying to say? Right? And sometimes I think about the future and wondering like if an alien civilization came down and discovered the remains of our 2019, 2020, what would they see? They'd see billions of people all over the world broadcasting themselves and taking pictures of themselves instead of seeing the moments around them. And the other day, it was funny. When I took a month off, we talked about taking a break. I took a month off after 5 years of building the show and everything else to be with my family. And the last few days, I just left my phone somewhere completely. And I was sitting in this restaurant by myself, getting some food for my kids who were down the street. And I didn't have my phone. And I just remember looking around and I was just smiling because like I was watching people. And I went, oh my God, I've been missing life. And I looked over and I saw they had this like Jenga set. And I went over and I just like played Jenga by myself. And I would have never done that because I would have been on some social platform or writing down some idea or answering an email. And I would have missed the beauty that is right in freaking front of us. And that's kind of the struggle that I'm having, my inner battle with it, because we've never been trained. Like we talk about masculinity. Well, men have never been trained to hold this conversation. We've never been trained to hold women, like the female trauma. We've never been trained to hold our trauma. Well, as human beings, we're not trained to live in a digital world where we're connected to our phones and being like liked or loved based on what we show. Like our brains aren't used to it, especially if we don't have the spiritual foundation to keep us grounded so that our egos don't take over. So the long response to your question is that's what I'm thinking about right now is how can I navigate this world? How can we have this conversation where in the back of my mind, I don't care how many downloads this podcast episode gets. Like I share a picture of us. I don't care how many likes it gets. If people like it, that's fantastic. I hope Instagram gets rid of the likes. Like we just do it because we love it. We want it. It comes from our soul, it comes from our hearts and our desire to share what comes through us, not because it fills a void.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of voids to fill. And that's kind of what I'm exploring and on the journey of right now.
I love that, man. That's amazing. What a great, what a great reflection. That's awesome.
I'm not,
I love
not
it.
as enlightened as many of your guests because I'm just realizing
No, but what I love about it and what I'm glad, and this is beautiful. Like, you know, the one thing I love about the podcast is I have no idea where it's going to go. And this is exactly right now. I'm having one of those moments where I'm just like, I love where this is going and has gone so far because I'm just listening to you and all I'm thinking is that actually that's the beauty of it, that we are trying to learn about this new world and we're exploring it.
Yeah.
And we are going to make mistakes. We are all going to post something that we know we did for the wrong reason. And then we're going to reflect and be like, okay, I'm going to try this next time. And okay, that didn't quite work. I got that wrong too. And so I feel like this constant self-reflection and self-checking.
That's all we have to do.
And what you mentioned about the 3 whys, like I've often referred to as the why ladder. I'm like, you need to build a why ladder and then you can walk up it if the whys stack up. But if you can't answer, then that means you've got no rungs on that ladder.
And start with 2 whys.
Yeah.
The first why is never enough.
No, 100%.
You got to go with the why of the why.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that if you, like my daughter's 4. Why? The 4th why, there's no answer.
Yeah.
There's never an answer. You can't get past the 3rd.
Yeah.
But like that curiosity, that wisdom can only come if we ask ourselves these whys. I love the why ladder.
Yeah.
Like why?
Yeah.
Just if you can get to the 2nd why, you'll find that there's something missing.
Yes.
And if we can get to the point where we can acknowledge the parts of ourselves that are uncomfortable and dirty, if we can get comfortable in the uncomfortable, the parts of ourselves that are doing things to fill that void, then like, man, that's a recipe for happiness like no other. Even if it's like, ooh, I don't like how that feels, and you don't do it, great.
Yeah.
And we don't have to beat ourselves up because we failed. That's the other part of it. Like beat ourselves, because lots of good can come from our doing things impurely.
And we are going to.
And we are going to. Nobody is pure.
100%.
And in the Baha'i faith, we're told that like we will never conquer our ego.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
You can go be a monk for 1 billion years or 80 years. You know, it's really funny. This also made me think of something. Baha'u'llah says in the Baha'i faith, at one point, he called the monks down from the monasteries. He says, amazing. You found enlightenment. You found meditation. You have perfected the art of silence. Now come down here and put that into practice.
Yeah.
You're doing that. You're actually doing that. Because it's easy. You can spend 60 years in a monastery and practice all these things.
Yeah.
But can you practice it down on Hollywood Boulevard
100%.
with 3.5 million followers, with 1 million people or 2 million people that download your podcast? Can you practice what you've learned as a monk in the middle of superficiality and materialism? That's what you're literally doing, man. That's why I applaud you.
Well, no, the crazy thing about it is that I've said to so many people that like being a monk was like going to school and then this has been the exam. Like I've actually said it like that. Like this has been the test of everything I've learned is the last 6 years since I left the ashram. This has been the test. And when we were trained in the Vedic philosophy, same thing. So I love the fact that we're so aligned on belief. You'll never overcome ego. No one's fully at enlightenment. You're constantly in the path of purification. It's all about sincerity of purpose. So I love the use of the word sincerity. And the key thing was also that half of our day was silence and half was service, because we were told it's easy to feel humble when you're on your own. Like it's easy to feel you've overcome ego until someone challenges it. So if you're on your own all day, you can be like, oh yeah, I'm over ego. Like I'm cool. Like nothing can trigger me. And then the next thing you're like in a car on the Pacific Highway or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, like, you know, you're like, oh my God, I'm full of anger. And you're spot on. And therefore I think that it's okay. We just have to rapid awareness to stuff. And that's what I always explain to people. It's like, you're not trying to make something disappear. You're trying to spot it quicker. And then you're trying to transform it quicker. Like it's just a speed thing. It's not a matter of yes or no. I think we live in this binary world of one day I'm impure and one day I'm pure. And it's like, we both know it doesn't work like that. But what does work is that I get quicker at spotting those moments and I get quicker at changing.
It's funny, people ask me a lot, the effects that making my last days had on me.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to get into it.
And My Last Days was a documentary series that I produce where I've been traveling the country for 7 or 8 years, telling the stories of people that are terminally ill, but living amazing lives. And there's something that happens to somebody when they find out they're dying. That the reason I created the show was because I wanted so badly for an audience to be able to have that same moment without being given the diagnosis. What if you could wake up and live as if you were told from the doctor you had 6 months? What would you do? How would you treat people? What would you care about? Right? That was my dream. That was my goal. What I found was the thought of mortality and being around so many individuals who are so close to death, was that exact thing that you described. It was the thing that in an argument with my wife or a friend or in the middle of deal points, in a business, was the thing that made me come back faster. Because at the end of the day, does that matter? Why am I reacting that way? And when I leave here, how am I going to feel about it? Now, if you're dying and you have 6 months to live, it's a totally different thing than if you feel like you have another 80 or 90, which none of us even know how long we have. But this coming back faster is all that we really need to do. That's what my wife and I talk about. It's great. So what if we get in an argument? But how fast can we come back? My personal version of that is, how fast can I apologize? Do I have to wait till the next day? Or can I do it almost the second that I say it? And Abdul Baha in my faith basically says, in the future, the crime itself will be the punishment. Yeah. The goal is to get to a place in civilization, right, where we are so spiritually grounded that the very act of the crime itself will be all the punishment that's needed. Like, that's where we want to go.
Oh,
right?
wow.
That's where we want to get.
Right. Yeah.
How fast can we come back? Oh, I didn't feel good. All right, I'm back on course.
Yeah. And
right?
it's like the pain of committing the crime is the punishment.
That's
right?
it.
It's that
the remorse, knowing that we displeased.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
That's awesome.
Like that's where we have to get to, which is why when I say like all of these problems are spiritual in their core.
Yes.
Like you can look at everything, like the prison, like you talk about the prison industrial complex, like all of these things are they're all broken, but they all have spiritual fundamental issues that if we just looked at them as, wow, wait a second, people change. Like I can change, you can change. I just might have cursed at that person, but 3 seconds later, I was so regretful that I did. Let me go apologize to that person. I'm going to track that person down and say, I'm sorry. Yeah. Right. I think about that all the time when I'm driving in LA because there's so much road rage.
Yes.
Road rage is getting worse. Have you noticed, by the way? It is.
Oh my God.
It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Think about it. There's a lot of reasons why it's getting worse, but like someone drives by you, right? And they like literally flip you off and you're like, did I do something wrong?
Literally. It's
right. And I sometimes wonder if what if that person then slowed down and said, I'm sorry, I'm just having a bad day? Because generally that person flips you off and then you then get pissed off and flip off the next person, or that ruins your day, right? And it sends you down this spiral of negativity. But can you do it on both sides? Can you have instant reflection? Can you fight with your partner or your wife or say something stupid and then immediately apologize and say why you're sorry, not just that you're sorry.
Yes.
Oh man, this is why that happened. Yeah. That's what we're getting to. How fast can we come back?
Yes. I love that. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such a beautiful statement. And I love that the practical aspect of it, of asking our questions like, how fast can I apologize? Is a brilliant one.
But it's got to be from a sincere place.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Because as you and I both know, as you and I both know, our partners know when the apology is real or not.
Oh my God. Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And it's like, because my wife will tell me straight up, like, nah, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
And then that'll piss me off even more. What do you mean you don't believe me?
Yeah.
She's like, why? And then I'm like, all right, give me a second.
Yeah.
Right? And then you come back. And what we found is like the faster you come back, the happier you are.
Yes.
Right? You're never going to be like completely without it.
Absolutely.
If you are completely, this is another podcast, but if you are completely without it, then you're not going deep enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The two things that always have to be specific are apologies and appreciation. Right? You can't do either of them.
What are you thankful for? What are you sorry for?
Yeah, you can't do either of them with being generic.
But that ties back to the taking yourself to account thing as well. Right? Yes. Getting super specific for yourself and for your creator of what did go well? What am I thankful for?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Now you're going to get a taste of your own medicine. So one thing I was going to say that I really love about what you're doing and the way you're doing it is that when I came to your movie premiere, which I was so grateful you invited me to,
Thanks
5
for
Feet
coming,
Apart. First of all, it was a beautiful event. It was so amazing to be a part of it. It's the first movie premiere I've been to, actually. So I was really grateful to be invited. I don't usually go to the ones I've been invited to, but this felt special. And I wanted to come because I just feel that you've genuinely tried to be of service through your media. So I was interested to see how you were going to do this one. And this is what I loved about it.
No pressure.
I was watching a movie which in and of itself is a story of two people, but which I will talk about in a second and how you got there. But for me, I was learning gratitude. I was learning forgiveness. If you were watching it sincerely, you were going to take away all these messages. And I could tell that everyone was almost, what's the right word? Everyone was so engaged to watch it sincerely because the whole audience was in tears. Like the whole time. And for anyone who's not seen it yet, I highly recommend going to see it. Please go watch it. I just saw it on my plane ride back home too.
Oh, no.
It was on my airline.
It's so funny. I always tell people, if you're going to watch it on a plane, just be prepared because your partner's going to think you're having a nervous breakdown, their seat partner,
Literally, yeah, exactly. But if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. I went out to see it on the night that it came out when Justin invited me. I've seen it twice after that. And all I'm going to say is that people weren't just crying at the end. Like people were crying the whole way through, but then they would laugh. And then they would cry again, and then they would laugh. And that's what's so beautiful about it, that you were able to teach or at least share messages of gratitude, appreciation, forgiveness, love, all of these things through crying and laughter. And I think that's very unique. And I think that's very special that you could go to a theater, go to a cinema and watch a movie that was able to bring out all of those responses. Like I'm sure people after that like called up the person they love and were just like, I love you. Like, just I want you to know this in a good way.
Yeah. What's funny was that was my only goal.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a few specific goals. None of them were financial, but one of them was because I got asked this question a lot before I made it and after, is what would you hope an audience would do? Like, what do you hope the audience reaction would be? And I always said, if somebody left the theater and called somebody that they loved and told them, then we will have succeeded. Or forgave somebody that they were arguing with, or apologized to somebody, or just noticed how lucky they were to be able to hold the hand of somebody they loved. Gratitude, all of these things. So thank you, because that really was, that was the goal. And the response has been incredible. I think more than anything, it was a human project. One of the Arabic words for human, right, is insan, which has infinite definitions.
Yes,
but of course, one of them means they who forget, which is funny that like insane means like they who forget.
Yeah.
And the idea, and this was, my partner, my production company is Muslim, and we were having conversations about this, is one of like, it's interesting that that's one of the words for human is that we forget everything. We forget our joy. We forget our pain. Like, we just forget, and it's both a blessing and a curse. And part of the beauty of life is in the remembering, right? The idea that God created us to remember him, right? Not to which means that he built us in a way that makes us also forget. So then the journey to remembering is that much more beautiful. And I think that journey in a film should replicate the journey in life. So for me, a movie that makes you cry strips away all the stuff and the barriers. Like it's like the Rumi quote, like all the barriers we've built up against love.
Yes.
It strips it all away and it leaves us open so that we can then take in a message. So my strength I found early on was, as a storyteller, I both enjoy and excel at making people feel things, which is why I would say like a mission statement for me is helping people take the journey from their head to their heart. Right. And that's essentially what the film was supposed to be, is if we can strip people down and we can make them feel something deeply. And this social media, like instant gratification, on-demand society, if we can like just make people feel, then we can create room and space for them to have that light bulb go off where they realize how grateful they are, or how lucky they are, or the fact that they can take a full breath, or how meaningless the argument that they're in is, or the depression that they're facing because maybe they weren't invited to that party that they see all their friends are at on Snapchat or Instagram, or how many likes they got. And you strip it all away and just sit there and watch something that just brings you back to what matters and helps you remember. That was the goal of the movie. And that's kind of the goal for all the content that we're creating is, can you remember? Can we remember how lucky we are and how beautiful life is and can be? Because you can't have happiness unless you're content with what you have. And so I'm happy that the response was that. And also it was inspired by my friend Claire, who passed away, who had cystic fibrosis, who was a walking example of that. And she was featured in the second season of My Last Days. And I mean, she was the one that said, like, we all have the ability to make our lives a beautiful piece of art. And you know, the hope is that people walk away from that movie having that experience, you know, and crying a little bit and laughing a little bit. And the laughter, like after you cry, like something funny is that much sweeter.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then after you laugh, something sad is that much more emotional.
Yeah.
But that all comes from real people. My Last Days, people think it's so depressing. It's inspiring.
100%.
Because like, they're not just sad all the time. They use humor like in many ways to deflect from the sadness, but it doesn't change the sadness. But sometimes that stuff's funny. And like, you know, it's just an extreme situation. So yeah, man, it's been a really, really beautiful experience. And now I'm off to my next one.
Yeah. You can't tell me anything about it, but
no, I can. It's another tearjerker. Yeah.
Okay.
It's based on another documentary. We're making a movie at Warner Brothers called Clouds, based on the life of Zach Sobiak, who was, it was a viral YouTube documentary that I had made. He had written a song called Clouds. And the week he died, the documentary went viral and the song hit #1 on iTunes.
Wow.
And it's basically a story about how this young 17-year-old chooses to live the last year of his life, knowing that all of his other friends are going to college, and how he chooses to spend his time and the impact that he wants to have on the world.
I love that, man. And this is what I'm saying. This is why I love the work you're involved in, because it may not, and you know, we both believe in this education entertainment world of like where you're able to enlighten through entertainment. And I do believe that, you know, that was the reason why I came into this world and wanted to be involved, was because I really saw that too, that I felt that we're always going to want to watch movies. We're always going to want to watch documentaries. We're always going to do that. But if the creators behind these can become more conscious, if all of us can come with an angle of, okay, why is this serving anyone, right? Beyond what you said, the monetization or any of that stuff. Like, how is this really helping people? Because in the world today, we have this dichotomy between, just as we have junk food, we have junk media. And if all you're consuming is junk media, that's going to destroy your insides in the same way junk food destroys your outsides. And that's where we're at.
So you're the only, it's funny. It was quite literally in an early deck when I was starting the company and begging people to make things with me that I said, it was like, we are doing the exact same thing in television and media that we've done in the food system, right? Which is we're creating the low hanging, like, this tastes really good. It's really sugary. It's filled with all these natural, like, natural flavors. And then 5 minutes later, you feel terrible about yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so much content that's being created that make us feel better about being worse people. And we're really interested, and you are too, of how do you create content that makes people want to be better?
Yes.
And finally, now we're in a place where that's becoming cool.
Yeah.
Which is going to present an entirely new set of challenges.
100%.
Because we're going to find ourselves swimming in a ocean where everybody is now trying to make similar content.
Yeah.
But there's going to be differences in the intention of why people are making the content, which is going to be the difference of why things work and why they don't. But for most people, they're not going to be able to see that, right? It's like, I say this a lot, but it's like your grandmother's cooking.
Yeah.
You could make the exact same thing that you could get at a restaurant.
Absolutely.
But your grandma's tastes so much better.
Yes.
The ingredients could be identical.
Yes.
But she made it with love.
Yeah.
That's the same approach that we have, that I know we both share with content. And it's going to be really tricky that's my prediction in the next 5 years.
I think
we're going to be so saturated with, like, you know, the gurus and the change your life and the content that does good in the world, that we're going to have to really be mindful of the 3 whys.
Yes.
You know, that's why I always ask people, like, well, why? 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 Because if it's not coming from that other place, then that means that it might look the same, but behind it, you know, like the iceberg underneath it isn't really doing anything for anybody. And then for people like us, we're going to have our own challenges, man, which is the more successful anyone gets, the more of a test it is for the purity of the reasons we create.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And nobody is exempt from that.
100%. And my teacher keeps reminding me. I've actually invited you to an event.
Yeah,
on the train. I hope you can come. I want you to meet him.
Yeah.
So he keeps me in check. He's 70 years old. He's been a monk for 40 years. He comes out and travels and meets, and he's with us here at the moment. And he's someone who just, me and my wife were talking about the other day, because he can say things to me that if most people said, there are people in your life that you need that can say things to you that no one else can say, and that you will listen to it, and your ego is naturally limited because you have just so much respect for them. Exactly. And I feel like you need people like that in your life who you trust to the point where even when my ego really wants to respond to him and justify myself, and it still does.
You don't, you shut up and listen. But I just don't,
and I shut up and listen. And that's like such a benefit to have someone like that in your life.
We're very privileged to have those people.
Yeah.
Most people don't have those people.
Yeah.
So for anybody listening, find those people. If you don't, surround yourself with people that tell you the truth.
Yes.
I was telling my sister this last night. Just, it's so like truth, even if it can be hurtful, is so important. However, like in giving of the truth, then we have our whole, what's this quote that I love? I was telling her, not everything that a man thinketh can be disclosed. Not everything that a man discloseth can be considered as timely. And not every timely utterance can be considered suitable for the one who hears it. It's a quote from Baha'u'llah. So the idea is not everything that you think can be said, right? And then it's like the 3 whys. Yes. And then you have to really think about when you're saying and when you're giving that feedback. Yeah. But maybe we can also be that for each other.
Yeah, I'd love that, man. That'd be amazing. No, I'd appreciate it. I think we need more people in that category in our lives who can do that. And you're forced to shut up and listen because you want to. And I want to ask you some advice now, because even though, and I'm not doing it.
I don't have much advice to give, my man.
No, I'll tell you why. I'm not a father yet. Oh. And me and my wife obviously want to have kids at some point. And the reason why I'm asking you this is I'd love to hear how you've been trying to pass on whatever you have, or to learn from your children too in this process, because I know it's a two-way thing,
It is, man. Well, I think our children teach us more than we teach them.
Yeah.
Especially in the first few years. My kids, one of the things that I'm actively working on is trying to see the world the way they do. I don't know why or how we forget the wonder of like the fact that somehow like these, like our body, like we've come into existence from like not from any will of our own doing. So we're here, and all of this is happening, and everything was somehow built and created, and we're just like, yeah, that's Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's Hollywood Boulevard. Like, but what's underneath that? Like, whoa, the sun rises and sets. The stars, like my kids look at all of this and they're so curious.
Yeah.
And we're just like, that's old news. But is it like stars really? Like, is it old news? The fact that what we're looking at doesn't actually exist today and it's millions of light years away, that those are balls of gas, that were planets that were once there or not there, or stars. It's like we forget, and then we just get, and then we're just like, we're like, oh, how many likes did that get? And my kids are looking at the world with so much wonder. And that's something that I'm really interested in and excited about, that I try to remind myself. I share a picture of us. I don't care how many likes it gets. If people like it, that's fantastic. I hope Instagram gets rid of the likes. Like we just do it because we love it. We want it. It comes from our soul, it comes from our hearts and our desire to share what comes through us, not because it fills a void.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose. I'm so grateful and appreciative of the fact that you take out time out of your days every single week to learn, to listen, to grow, and to focus on self-work and love in your life. And you know that I'm committed to finding and bringing you the guests that I believe are living a life on purpose, that are doing things with a heart of service and wanting to have a meaningful impact in the world. And today's guest, I can truly say, is someone who's dedicated to that vision and that mission. He's a director actor, producer, and entrepreneur, and is focused on creating a service-based life through entertainment and media. He stars in the award-winning Jane the Virgin, which many of you have probably seen or heard of and been fans and followers of. And also he's the founder of Wayfarer Entertainment. He's an incredible human being who I connected with probably about a couple of years ago, but we've been trying to make this happen. So for me, this is a huge moment. I'm so grateful to have with me Justin Bordoni. Justin, thank you for being here.
I appreciate you so much, man.
No, I mean it.
I'm really happy to be here. Of all the things that come my way, this was one that I was like, this has to happen, because I appreciate the on purpose aspect of everything that you do. And it's like, this is it. This is why we do it, right? This is why we do everything. So thank you, man.
No, thank you, man. That means a lot coming from you, definitely. And I want to dive into so many areas of your life today. And I wanted you to start with what you just said now. Like, when did you get to that point where you realized everything was about service and on purpose? And how did you get there?
I don't think I'm there. I think that's one of the things we'll probably uncover is I don't think we ever really get there. I think that there have been moments in my life that were both caused by me, making poor decisions that led me to a path of having no choice but to realize that this life is not about me. And then there were things that happened that were just completely out of my control. But I don't know if we ever get to a place where we realize that life's just about service, because that's just not the way that the ego works and the way that our brains are built to work. So I feel like every morning I wake up, some days I get it, and then there's some days that I don't. And the days that I don't, it's about then making sure I wake up the next morning and seeing if I can get it. And I think that's just the journey that is life, right? It's just, I don't think we ever arrive. Maybe you have arrived. If anybody, maybe you have. But I definitely have not. So yeah, man, I think that it was a combination of a lot of things.
So I'm with you. I've not arrived either. I completely agree with that. I think we have showers every day because we get dirty. We have to brush our teeth every day because they get dirty. We have to eat every day because we get hungry. And so we have to feed our souls and minds and consciousness every day too, in the same way.
In my faith, there's a quote that says, at the end of each day, we have to take ourselves into account. And we have to look at all the things that we did that would be pleasing to God, and then ask for strength to do better. And then look at the things that we did that day that were about us and maybe would be displeasing, and ask for the strength to do better, right? So we want to repeat the things that we did well, but we want to do better and, improve on the previous day. And that's it. Little by little, day by day. That's what we're told.
Yeah.
So,
And both of those things that you said there are so important, because you have to know what you're doing well too, right? You got to repeat those again and make them happen again in your life.
And that can't happen if we don't reflect. And if you don't actually think about, I love the idea of taking things into account. I'm a Baha'i, by the way. And
yes.
And so this idea of taking ourselves into account. The actual quote is that take ourselves into account as one day we'll be summoned to a reckoning, right? Or thou art summoned to a reckoning. This idea of we're going to have to look at our lives and all the things that we've done and all the decisions that we've made, whether they be for us or for somebody else, the pain that we've caused. And one day we'll have a reckoning with all of those things. So by taking ourselves into account every day, right? Little by little, we're kind of being proactive in that process and not waiting until the day we're standing under, before our Creator and having to do the same thing. So yeah, man. So then you mix in our business and this industry and all the interesting things that come with it. And you're it's a battle every single day, which is why I say I'm still trying to figure it out and work on it just like everybody else.
Yeah. But that's what fascinates me so much. And what I love about what you do is that you're able to be in an industry that's seen a certain way, that may function a certain way, but you're able to bring that soul to it, and you're working hard to bring that service element to it. And that's when I first reached out to you. And I kind of want to go back there because I think you've done so many interesting things in your career and your journey. And I'm sure many people already know about some of them, but even if they don't, I want to highlight them and unpack those stories with you. But when I reached out to you, I saw you had given this TED talk about being man enough. And I looked and I was just like, wow, here's a guy's from the perspective you were talking about it, you've been an actor asked to play very alpha male roles. And then you're looking and reflecting and taking into account.
Yeah.
And you're noticing and you're observing that oh, wait a minute, this isn't me. I've almost been pretending to play roles and be someone that I'm not. How did you start unpacking that and that journey to get to that talk?
First of all, that talk was, I think I still have PTSD from that talk, in the sense that it was one of the scariest things I've ever done, especially at TED Women. Like being in a room with 1,500 of some of the world's most powerful women, and then being a man and giving a talk that's like feminist adjacent, right? And then also the TED stage, talk about self-doubt. Like, what do I have to offer the TED community, right? I'm an expert in nothing except myself. And even that I'm trying to, figure out. So that was a hell of an experience. And my son was born 8 days or 9 days before that. And we were shooting Jane, and it was just this crazy time. But I think for me, it was about, look, you get to Hollywood, and Hollywood decides what they want you to be, right? Suddenly I'm playing these characters and I'm auditioning for these characters that couldn't be farther from the way that I viewed myself. And also, these are characters, I'm playing the types of people that also made my life very difficult when I was younger and caused me a lot of pain. So I realized early on, I remember calling my first manager, sent me an audition, and like the title was like super hot. And I remember I called him and I was like, I think you sent this to the wrong person. I don't think because it just wasn't how I saw myself. And I was a bit of an ugly duckling, and girls never really liked me, and all the things grew at the wrong times, and eyebrows weren't cool back then, and definitely not the big nose. And I was super skinny and very insecure, and had acne, and you name it, like braces in high school. And I was bullied a lot, and I was picked on a lot, and I would compensate with overconfidence when I was younger. But all those boys from the time when I was in elementary school, to even, I still struggle with it today. I always felt like I wasn't included, like I wasn't a part of the group, like I wasn't a man, like I wasn't man enough, right? And then suddenly I found myself being looked at from a superficial lens as one of those guys. So I was inducted into the club because at some point in my early 20s, I finally like grew into myself maybe, but it was never comfortable. So I remember early on in my acting career playing these roles, but having no idea like how I would talk or say things or walk, or because even my walk, I was made fun of at one point by kids when I was in 7th grade. And these memories are burned into my soul. And I'm playing like a really cool frat guy at 20 years old. I had no idea. I wasn't invited to frat parties when I know, like, how did I do that? How do I do that? And I found more and more every time I got a job, it was like living in conflict. And then I realized that I was actually living in conflict outside of the work, because I would become a different man based on who I was with. So I would change my personality, the way that I carried myself, the way that I walked, based on the company that I was in. I would become a chameleon to be accepted, to be liked. And all of those. And then I noticed my behavior with women as I was dating and relationships. And I just started to think about all this stuff, which unfortunately we don't often think about because the world is built to distract us. So in thinking about it, I realized that I was having a innate issue with my masculinity. It was much deeper than that, but that was at least a part of the issue. And then I saw a lot of other men having a very similar issue. And then the more I learned about feminism and women's rights, I realized that that was also a big contributor, if not one of the main contributors to the oppression in that certain way. And so I just started to like dig into it and learn. And I found, I don't know how, but Ted eventually asked me to come speak, and I wanted to use my platform to talk about it, because I just felt like, man, if we could get more men to open up and think about this stuff and go inside instead of projecting outside, and I don't know, maybe we'd have a different looking world, and that's just the surface layer. Underneath all of it, I believe is there's spiritual issues that need to fundamentally change, but you can't change those things like with a snap of your fingers. So I chose masculinity as kind of like the surface level thing for me to discuss and talk about. And also because it was parallel to my journey playing a character that was also kind of trapped and struggling with his masculinity.
Yeah, absolutely. And what have been some of those challenges? It's so funny when I'm listening to you, there are so many things in common. that
Oh,
I've
I'm
spoken about
sure.
before, that I'm listening.
sure.
I'm just like, wow, like I was super bullied when I was young because I was very overweight. And so I
Were
was,
you really?
yeah, I was very overweight, and my wife had the same thing. So me and my wife, even though we didn't know each other at that time, but we both grew up on that side of the journey and experience of how we were bullied growing up.
That's so interesting because my wife and I were bullied for being skinny.
Oh, wow.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
The policing is very interesting, and we oftentimes forget that. And it's and my God bless my wife, but we were watching a Meghan Trainor song, all about that bass. Because my daughter is obsessed with that music video.
Yeah.
She's 4 years old, and everyone's dancing, and we're watching this video, and she and Maya's liking it, and and some of the words are kind of not attacking, but
Provocative.
for skinny girls, kind of making skinny girls possibly feel bad for being skinny, right? And we don't realize there's a whole nother group of women and men that are bullied for looking a certain way. And my wife has a lot of trauma from growing up, and she couldn't put weight on if she tried. And so she's telling my daughter things like, it's okay to be who you are. And you know what, if you're skinny when you grow up, that's also beautiful. But also explaining that their bodies are beautiful and all of our bodies. And it's so funny that like, we don't think about the policing on both sides and where that comes from. So, but the result is the same. The result is like a lot of insecurity in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, throughout your life.
Yeah. And I can relate to the chameleon aspect too that you were mentioning. I can totally relate to that.
But we don't often think about it, right? You're like,
I've said it so, like I've repeated it because I came to understand that fairly early when I chose to go and become a monk, which was the most random decision of everyone I grew up with.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
It was, no, we can talk about it another time, not today, but this is about you. But the reason I'm bringing it up is just, I think as we're reflecting, I'm hoping everyone who's listening or watching right now, I hope you're getting an opportunity to reflect. Maybe you have already, maybe you haven't. But if you're listening or watching right now, the reason why I'm sharing when I'm listening to you is I've also played that when I was on Red Table Talk recently, and I know you were too. And
aren't they wonderful?
They're wonderful. They're amazing. Yeah, the whole family is just beautiful and incredible. And I was talking about this. I was talking about how like I was switching my personalities to appeal to women and appeal to the opposite sex. So I would switch who I was,
of course,
so that a certain type of person would like me. What have you found from giving that TED Talk, doing that research, doing that work up till that point in your life? What did you find out about identity? And on that deeper spiritual level, I'd love to hear that from you. I love how you said that you were not using, but engaging a viewpoint around something more surface level to talk about something deeper.
Well, I think all of our issues are inherently spiritual, but you can't snap your fingers and fix a spiritual problem unless people are willing to go there. And as you know, having been a monk and me, every day waking up and struggling, the inherent, the connection that an individual has with their creator, God, the universe. I mean, even God is a buzzword now for people. Like God is triggering to people, which is a bizarre thing. Like people are so anti-religion now that, and because they've had such terrible experiences in whether it be their churches or, with various groups, that people are very hesitant to even talk about God. So now we're using words like the universe, right? Who created the universe? I don't know. Something did. So I use the word God. But it's so hard to tackle a spiritual issue when we're not realizing we're actually spiritual beings having a physical experience. So that's why choosing, that's my being, look, so it's social justice. It's all of these things. They're all interconnected. If you strip it all down, right? Whatever the problem that's plaguing the world, it all comes down to spirituality and the way we view each other as other, or the way that our ego takes over, or our drive for power or money or success, and completely forgetting that we are here really to serve each other and to be of service to our creator, the universe, God, whoever you want to call it. So some of the things I've learned that I don't know anything. After the TED Talk, I found it really interesting because we were talking about this outside. I never planned on being a public spokesperson for anything. Like, I'm not a thought leader, right? I'm not someone that's going to like change my Instagram bio and call myself a thought leader. and like make that my world. I actually inherently kind of am a little allergic to that phrase, right? I'm not a leader in anything. I was a guy with an idea that started talking about the things I cared about. Because of the way social media works, people then attach certain labels to me. Because also of the way the industry works, then it becomes a little Pavlovian on my part or your part. You start to do more of that thing. But inherently, I kept it as pure as I could. And then suddenly you're asked to give more thoughts and more opinions. And then you're on the TED stage and you don't know what the hell you're doing there. That's my journey.
I love it.
But afterwards, what ended up happening was I didn't expect there to be so much negativity. And I didn't realize how polarizing the masculinity issue was.
Interesting.
And how interconnected it was with the political climate and the culture divide that's happening in our country and around the world, right? As an example, feminism is now a weaponized word. And if you're considered a feminist, then people assume they know your political ideology. The same thing with masculinity, right? You're a liberal snowflake. You're this, you're this. And I found myself getting very attacked. And I am not good with that because of how I was treated as a young boy. There's a lot of open wounds there that I've been working on healing for a long, long time. So as we were talking about out there, I could have 1 million people tell me amazing things, but I could have one guy tell me something with just like keyboard courage with some anonymous name that I happened to read on accident, and my day is ruined. And it doesn't matter how enlightened or prayerful I am, there's a part that hasn't healed from being that kid that, of course, I will eventually hopefully get to a better place, but none of us have been trained to really know what to do with social media this way. So I found myself having a lot of interesting reactions to the talk, being loved and supported by women, getting tons of texts from women when it came out. Very famous women that I hadn't seen in 10 years, 20 years, a few men,
I was one of
them. Yeah, right. You were one of them being promoted on all these female facing magazines and websites and things. And then the male reaction was really negative. And I was confused because it ended up perpetuating the same issue, which was this feeling like I am not good enough for my own gender, which happened as a boy. And now here I am talking to men as a man. Because at the end of the day, I'm an athlete. I'm a dude. I work out. I love some of the aspects of masculinity. I'm a sports fan. I'm like, all of it. But I also am a sensitive and I'm an emotional person. And all I'm saying is that you can be both. And maybe we can use all of those aspects of masculinity that make us strong men to explore the hidden inner parts of ourselves to become more full humans. And the response was terrible on the
I didn't
male side.
realize that.
Yeah, it was really
I really
interesting.
didn't realize that.